What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto hates his godparents? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. It was dark out, as usual when the attacks happened for 5-year-old Naruto, but this time there were masked shinobi after him this time, and he was deep in the woods with no way for the old man Hokage to reach him. It had been a simple night for Naruto, as he had decided to stay away from Konoha tonight, having sensed their bloodthirsty aura aimed at him all day, and decided to be someplace where he didn't have to fear for his life. The Hokage normally came to protect him, telling him he was sorry for the attacks, but Naruto knew these attacks were in regards to something about himself, and when he asked about it the old man would lie saying he didn't know. "I got to get away before they catch me," thought Naruto, who by the stroke of luck did he have such a lead from these masked shinobi, as they had tripped his cans tied with string alarm, and it gave him the lead he needed to get away before they could pursue. "Come back here, demon. We're going to finish what the Hokage started by killing you and sending you back to hell," said one of the masked shinobi heading towards him and was seeable now with the form getting closer. That was another thing that bothered Naruto, as people called him demon, monster, and other assorted names before they would try to hurt him. The Hokage kept interfering, but it still hurt Naruto that they attacked him regardless, and that they seemed to ignore the old man's authority when he was supposed to be the leader of the village. "If I make it out of this alive, I am going to get answers even if I have to find them myself in order to get them, and then confront the old man about it," thought Naruto, as he soon came across a large mansion of a house, and none too soon with the two masked shinobi now less than 10 feet away. "I got you now, you demon. I don't know why the Hokage shows you such compassion in wanting you to be loved. Monsters like you deserve to be killed," said the one masked shinobi, who had a mask painted like it was a cat, and his partner that of a boar. "But I'm not a demon," said Naruto, trying to comprehend why they were after him and why they kept calling him a demon. "Shut up. When we get through with you, you'll be begging to die, and re-enter hell with all your other demon brethren where you belong," said the shinobi with the boar mask, as he charged forward with a sword in hand, and aimed it to cut into Naruto's side. As for Naruto himself, he stumbled back a few steps in fear, as if they would help him in dodging the attack, and when he did found the ground gave in under him, having stepped on a trap door that ironically saved him from the attack. The two shinobi looked at the hole and then at the house itself before realizing they had stumbled upon the Namikaze estate that the Yondaime had so carefully concealed from the rest of the village. "We have to go after him. If he somehow gets into the estate, the demon will use the power inside of it, and try to destroy Konoha once more," said Boar Masked Shinobi, as he jumped into the hole, and was followed by the Cat Masked Shinobi seconds later. Inside the lower levels, Naruto groaned, as he woke up from the darkness that came with his fall, and struggled to get off the ground only to find that he wasn't on the ground at all. He was actually lying in a comfortable, soft, and very large bed. Felt wonderful to be in right now. Deciding that maybe a few more minutes weren't going to hurt, Naruto fell back onto the softness of the pillow, and let sleep take him willingly this time. The boy was so tired that he didn't see the blurry figure that had appeared in the room before disappearing to deal with the others, and not in the same way like Naruto. Elsewhere in the lower levels. "What is this place? It seems too strange," said the cat masked Anbu, who was looking around, seeing the area around him was different, and like some ancient temple. "I don't know. The Namikaze were more secretive than even the Uchiha and Hyuga clans." "That's saying something right there," said the boar masked Anbu, who had seen many people try to have the Yondaime teach them his skills, but none of them seemed to have the spark the man did, and it was his power that helped win the fight against Kyuubi those 5 years ago. "You have entered this place, I command you to leave, or face the consequences," said the deep voice that almost sounded inhuman. "Who's there? Show yourself," said the cat masked Anbu, as he readied his sword to use should he be attacked, and his partner did the same. The two shinobi got their answer in the form of a spiritual-like form of a masked figure with gauntlet arms with metal claws covering the hands, wearing blood-red armor with strange design patterns, and was wearing black robes behind him. The figure's form was wavy like a ghost, yet did not have the aura of one, from what the two shinobi had read up on sensing them. "I am the guardian of this place. You have no right to be here. Leave now or die," said the figure, pointing at the two of them with a menacing clawed hand. "We're here to find someone that fell down here before us," said the cat masked Anbu, hoping it would appease the strange spirit. Ah yes, the little blonde-haired boy. I had him taken to one of the rooms to rest. When I found him, he was quite a mess, and will need a good bath when he properly wakes up, said the spirit, seeing the two tense at his words. He's not a boy. He's a demon named Kyubi that attacked us 5 years ago. The creature was sealed inside of that boy's body, making him mortal, and we intend to send the demon back into hell where it belongs, said the boar-masked Anbu, pointing his own weapon at the spirit, who moved his head to the side for a second, and then put it back in what could be considered a thinking-like pose. You are mistaken. The boy is no demon, and therefore I cannot let you kill him, said the spirit, seeing the two Anbu get angry with him, as they tightened their hand on each of their respected weapons, and got ready to fight the spirit if they had to. You won't stop us, evil spirit. We are doing our village a service in removing the demon from Konoha once and for all. You have no power to stop us like you may want us to think you do, said the cat-masked Anbu, charging forward, intending to pass through the spirit and chase down the demon while it was vulnerable. I'm an evil spirit now? Fool, I never said I was. System defense level 2. Turrets shoot to kill hostile intruders. Acknowledged, said the spirit, which was in fact a hologram projection, and commanded the defensive means of this mysterious home. System acknowledged. Turrets activating, said a voice that had an almost feminine-like voice to it before strange objects came out of the top corner sections of the walls that had begun firing several red charka bolts at the Anbu. The two shinobi tried to dodge them with their skills, but the blasts were too many, and accuracy was near pinpoint even when they moved to dodge. When the turrets stopped firing, all that was left of the Anbu was ash, and smoke from the ash that would be filtered out through the many vents in this underground complex. Satisfied with the killing done, the projection of the mysterious warrior decided to wait a few hours before seeing the blonde-haired boy, and tell the boy the important news he had for the child. A few hours later, Naruto woke up once more, finding that he was feeling quite refreshed at the moment, which was usually not the case back on the streets of the village, or when he was in that Kami-forsaken orphanage. He got the old witch back though, as he set off a huge stink bomb in the place that was mixed with his own waste, and the garbage she would try to make him eat for dinner. It was his own way of declaring himself free from that hellhole. Exiting the room to look for the bathroom, Naruto walked along the many corridors that this place had, and felt that for the first time ever, he was home. Walking further down, Naruto entered a large empty room that broke off into many other hallways, and the boy got the distinct impression that this place was bigger than he thought. Hello young master, said a voice that made Naruto spin around in surprise, and he was just barely able to stop from pissing himself scared at sight of the metallic wonder before him. Who are you? What are you? And, how do I get to the bathroom? Said Naruto, as he looked at the being in front of him, and wondered if he was a threat. Oh, forgive me master, I haven't introduced myself, have I? I am HK-47, Protocol Droid, your humble servant at your service, and guide for today, my master, said HK-47 before the rust-colored droid with orange glowing eyes bowed to Naruto. Were you the one that put me in that room and on that comfortable bed? Said Naruto, wondering if there were more droids like HK-47 around. Yes master. I was ordered to by my first master, who found you, and saw great potential in you from what I saw, said HK-47, seeing the boy's eyes shine with happiness and the fact someone was taking an interest in him. Really? That's great. Could you point me to the bathroom now? I don't think I can hold it much longer, and I'd rather not make a mess, said Naruto, seeing the droid's eyes glow slightly, as if to indicate its eyes were widening, and then dimmed back to normal. Of course master. Forgive me, as I forgot all human organisms like yourself have to remove your waste from your body every so often, and that you can only hold it in for so long. This way master, said HK-47, as he showed Naruto to the nearest bathroom, and let the boy take care of his much-needed business before the child exited. You have no idea how much I needed that HK. Thanks a lot, said Naruto, wiping off the remaining water after washing his hands clean. Oh, thank you master, but if you are finished with cleaning yourself, I must take you to a bathroom for you to take a bath in, and get you some new clothes, said HK-47, as his odor sensors were telling him that Naruto had a bad odor around him, and it needed to be removed. It's not my fault. I don't have a home and I can't exactly go into someone else's home and say, can I use your shower so I don't reek? Since people hate me so much, said Naruto, his eyes filled with sorrow and pain from his words. Well master, in my opinion such meatbags don't deserve to have someone like you in their homes, and if anything should be taken to the middle of the village square to be shot in the head, said HK-47, as he saw Naruto's confused expression on his face, and the droid knew that the boy would understand later when he was older. Okay. Oh, you mentioned your master before me. When can I see him or her? Said Naruto, as he really wanted to thank the person who saved him from those two masked guys after him, and possibly work the debt he owed off. After a bath and a fresh set of clothes, master. Follow me please, said HK-47, as he took Naruto to his room only to open a door in the said room that was the bathroom, and had a bathtub in it for Naruto to get clean in. Thanks again HK. Can you tell your master I said thanks too? Said Naruto, seeing the droid prepare the bath and towels for when the bath was done. Of course master. Once you're ready to take a bath, take off your clothes, and put them in here where they will be taken to be cleaned. Your new clothes will be on your bed when you come out, said HK-47 before leaving for Naruto to take his bath in private. Hokage's office. The Sandaime Hokage sighed, as he looked at the piles of paperwork he had just finished, and looked out the window to see the partial view of the monument heads. His successor had wanted Naruto to be seen as a hero for the burden the boy carried inside of him, but the village only made the boy's burden heavier by doing the opposite, and they seemed to enjoy doing so, making the matter worse. The old formerly retired Hokage tried to protect Naruto, but found his efforts crushed by his former teammates, as they wished to end the boy's life, and Danzo wanted to turn Naruto into a weapon. The civilian council also called for the boy's head, but the clan heads had been the merciful ones to honor the Yondaime's wish, and even let the boy stay at one of their homes to be raised normally. Except for the Uchiha clan of course, as they hated the boy due to the Kyuubi, but the Uchiha clan head was fortunately silenced by Hyuga Hiyashi, and told the opposition to trust the Yondaime's sealing skills. I'm glad Naruto got out of that orphanage using that powerful stink bomb he created, using whatever he did to make it. The Inuzuka dogs won't go near the place or the area around it for a good 30 feet. I had to take the overseer to Ibiki when she went on a rant about how she should have just let Naruto starve instead of feeding him poor food. The only problem now is finding Naruto, as he just lives on the streets now rather than trust to stay in a single place once due to the villagers hunting him like he was an animal, and from what I've noticed he never sleeps in the same place twice. Thought Sarutobi, finding that Naruto had found some interesting places to stay warm during harsh or cold weather. For years since Naruto's birth, the clan heads with the exception of the Uchiha clan all wanted to take him in to raise as one of their own, but the vast majority of the civilian council had some form of authority over the boy's upbringing, and denied the motion countless times. That part of the council consisted mostly of people who were part of the merchant district, trade business, and other civilian-based matters, including what to do with orphans. The arrogant fools acted tough in front of Naruto when the Kyuubi had them quaking in fear in their shelters while wondering if they were going to die. Hokage-sama, I just got word from Red-Eyed Weasel that both Anbu Boar and Cat were seen chasing Uzumaki Naruto through the woods, said an Anbu with a dog mask on his face and gravity-defying hair. Put a team together with Weasel and have him find Naruto at once. If word gets out he's missing, the councils will have fit and wish to put Naruto in a cell, said Sarutobi before heading out himself to find the boy, knowing that he was the only one that Naruto would trust right now. Yes Hokage-sama, said the dog-masked Anbu before heading to find Weasel, hoping that it wasn't too late. Namikaze Estate, lower levels. 2 hours later. Naruto had lost all sense of time in the bath, finding it so refreshing that he didn't want to get out, but his instincts had told him now was the best time to do it, and his instincts had been known to be correct most of the time. Getting out of the bath, Naruto wrapped his waist with a towel, and saw a crimson robe his size hanging not far from him. Taking it, Naruto wore it before heading into his room, and to find new clothes for him to wear that were again his size. Hope this guy isn't some kind of weird stalker or something, said Naruto, though he had a feeling that the one who ran this place was not something like that, and was someone he could trust. After getting dressed, Naruto looked himself in the mirror, finding strange comfort in the material of the clothing that seemed to fit him perfectly, and they were more comfortable than anything he had ever felt before. Walking along the halls, Naruto felt his instincts telling him to go down certain paths, and how it would lead him to the answers he seeks, not only on who the master of this place was, but also about himself too. He soon came to a room filled with green light-filled lines that stretched from the walls to the roof, and floor looked clean enough to eat off of. On the walls themselves were strange cubes and triangle-like items, with the far side of a room showing the large statue of a figure wearing robes with his or her face covered by the hood of said robes. "You are here, at last," said a voice, making Naruto jump several feet in the air before he landed on his butt in pain, making the voice chuckle in amusement. "Hey, that's not funny, pal. You wouldn't find it funny if someone did that to you," said Naruto, getting off the ground while rubbing his rump since the floor was harder than he thought. "How true. My apologies then, but seeing you now does bring back a lot of memories of how I looked when I was your age. Though I must admit I looked more well fed than you are," said the voice before the figure appeared while looking Naruto up and down, seeing the boy had less meat on the bones than he thought. "Yeah, well, not many places let me eat there, and the one that doesn't overcharge me or give me any rotten food," said Naruto bitterly at the fact that only one place let him eat what was the only he could eat without being possibly poisoned. "Again, my apologies, I didn't know, and if I had I would have done something about it," said the figure, making Naruto look up at the blurry-looking figure in surprise. "How? I mean, you're not exactly solid-looking." "No offense, of course," said Naruto, seeing the figure chuckle at that, since it was true. "True as well as observant of you, but I have HK-47 at my command, and he could have brought you to me if I ordered him to. Hence why you found yourself in a bed and not in some place you don't know after an attempt on your life," said the figure, seeing the boy's posture stiffen at this and his eyes looking slightly worried that part of his life was discovered. "I'd prefer we stay away from that subject of my life," said Naruto, seeing the figure nod in understanding since it was a touchy subject. "I understand, but I do stand by what I said about helping you, and I am here to do it now." "My successor?" said the figure, seeing Naruto look up at him, shock. "Successor? I don't understand," said Naruto, seeing the figure tilt his masked head before putting it back to its normal straight position. "Not surprising, as you are still young, but I can fix that, and help you become what you should have been from the start. You see, Naruto, I am your ancestor. My name is Namikaze Revan, the founder of the Namikaze clan, and to be more precise in lineage, I am your great-grandfather that helped become one of the key founders of Konoha with the Shoden," said Revan, seeing Naruto's eyes widen at this before doing the only thing he could do with this information. "He fainted. Oh my, it seems the young master has fainted from your presence, master," said HK-47, having made his appearance in the room. "Yes, he has, HK, though given the information he just received, it is to be expected, and I would have done the same thing in his position." "Was there a reason for you coming here?" said Revan during his attention to the rust-colored droid that was his loyal servant. "Yes, master. It has come to my attention that the Hokage has tripped the sensor detectors in the forest area along with a team of what seem to be high-level shinobi. I wanted your advice on how to deal with them given our current situation with what happened earlier," said HK-47, since none of his actions could be done without Revan's approval. "Activate the shield generator. Thickness level set to 75%. Just enough to keep other beings out without killing them, but hurting them for trying, and numbing their bodies in the process," said Revan, seeing HK-47 let out a droid version of a chuckle at such actions. "Oh, I see, using such cruelty to only those that try. Oh master, it's actions like these that make my behavioral core glow," said HK-47 before heading off to comply with Revan's orders. "And now while HK is busy with keeping the Hokage out of my home, I now play the waiting game with my successor, and my first true apprentice in a very long time," said Revan, as the light-filled cubes and the dark-filled triangles on the wall glowed with what almost appeared to be excitement. Outside the Namikaze estate, the old Hokage couldn't believe it. The house he had been welcomed to by his late fire shadow of a successor on very few occasions had somehow raised some kind of chakra barrier, and knocking his tracking team back while disabling them in the process. His two Anbu loyal to him that had the Sharingan eyes used them to see if there was a way to breach the barrier, only to find there was none, and any attempt to physically enter would result in being temporarily disabled. "How do we remove this barrier? I've never seen anything like this before," said the dog-masked Anbu, who found his Sharingan eye useless against it, and wanted to know if Naruto was actually inside of it. "I don't know, but I do know that the councils won't stand for this, and will want Naruto brought under their control. They have been slowly draining all my power for years now, ever since the Yondaime died, and even the clan heads are feeling it now that soon they may have to dance to their tune," said the Hokage seen Hitaki Kakashi Sai, as he had learned of Naruto being his sensei's son, but the constant bout of missions he had to take on prevented him from taking the boy in, and councils had been quite upset with the idea of the demon boy learning from the student of the Yondaime in the first place. There is someone or something coming this way, said Uchiha Itachi behind his weasel mask, making the other two look in his general direction. What the hell? Said the Hokage, seeing the sight before him to be some sort of puppet painted in a rusty-based color. Greeting meatbags. Please, allow me to introduce myself to you, and your old meatbag you call a Hokage. I am HK-47, loyal protocol droid, and servant to my master. The very same master, who has taken it upon himself to adopt one Uzumaki Naruto into his family, and give him the nurturing environment needed where he will be safe from the many arrogant meatbags of your village until such time he is strong enough to kill all who stand against him, said HK-47, seeing the group of shinobi gasp at this, since those that knew this was the Namikaze estate knew that they were royally screwed if Naruto learned the truth of his heritage. I want to speak with Naruto and your master, said the Hokage, hoping he could earn the trust of this droid to be let in to disable the machine and get the boy out of the estate. Master does not wish for you to enter, old meatbag. He has become most displeased in your ways of treating the younger master and will not let you pass. Trying to would only result in you feeling incredible pain from this shield before you, but if you wish to feel agonizing pain in trying, I won't stop you, and in fact encourage you to try, knowing that when you fail I will see your old body suffer on such an incredible level. It's making my behavior core glow inside right now just thinking about it, said HK-47, making some of the shinobi sweat drop, and wondered if Anko wasn't in the house controlling this thing. When will I be able to see Naruto again? He's like a grandson to me, said Sarutobi, as he wanted Naruto back under his care, and hopefully keep this incident quiet before the councils got wind of it. When the time is right, old meatbag. In the meantime, you will have to be patient, and wait to see what becomes of the young master when he reveals himself to you again, said HK-47 before leaving the baffled and heartbroken Hokage to deal with this situation his own way. Hokage-sama, what should we do? Said Itachi, wondering what they could do and if there was anything they could do. Nothing. We can do nothing at the moment, except pray that when Naruto returns to us, he won't hate us for what I fear he may learn about himself, and forgive us for not telling him the truth we kept from him, said Sarutobi, as he prayed that his failure in regards to taking better care of Naruto was still redeemable, and that the boy could find it deep in his heart to forgive him if only a little. Namikaze Estate, lower levels. Naruto woke up from his fainting spell, finding himself in the room he met his supposed great-grandfather named Namikaze Revan, who helped create Konoha, and helped make it one of the strongest villages to date. Looking up, Naruto saw his ancestor's form now looking down at him with a stance, saying he was amused at how the boy took the news of being taken in by his great ancestor. Can I ask a question? Said Naruto, wanting to ask something that was bugging him now since he was replaying Revan's words in his head. Of course. Asking questions is what the young must do to learn, said Revan, seeing Naruto crossing his legs while still sitting down. Well, how is it you're even alive? I mean, are you some kind of ghost or spirit? Said Naruto, seeing the figure of Revan laughing at the question, though it wasn't a laugh that was aimed at hurting Naruto because of the question, but rather the boy's question itself. No. You see, Naruto, I'm not exactly from your world when I was among the living, and that when I came here I intended for this place to be my home. I had no intention of even founding a ninja village, much less help one get founded, said Revan, seeing Naruto scratch his head in confusion at this, but the boy seemed to understand to some degree, and just accepted it the answer at the moment. So you're not a spirit or ghost. Then what exactly are you? Said Naruto, wishing that Revan would just tell him so he could understand. He was young. How hard could it be? I am a memory. You see these different cubes and triangle-based objects before you? Said Revan, motioning his hand to look around the room. Yeah, I do, but they glow with a strange light in each of them, and not all of them look pleasant, said Naruto, sensing the dark triangle-based ones seemed to be evil in some way. Very good. You see, Naruto, what you see before you are the pieces of myself along with my memories that represent your ancestor many years ago that stands before you in this holographic projection, said Revan, seeing the boy again stare at him, confused at what that meant. So they are like jigsaw pieces that when put together make up you when you were still alive? Said Naruto, as he remembered playing with the jigsaw puzzle that the old man showed him, and when put together made a picture of Ramen appear. Correct again. Each of these holocrons, as they are called, holds a different piece of knowledge my real self left behind before he died, and to be used by his family to be powerful enough to become the strongest of our family. Sadly, as from what I have learned from 5 years of slumber, the last of the Namikaze line has all but diminished with the exception of you Naruto, and through you I see a chance for the family line to continue to survive, said Revan, seeing the boy nod and how Naruto's face was now filled with anger. When I asked Gramps about my parents, he would just tell me they are dead, and try to change the subject. He did the same for when I asked why people hate me so much and why people try to hurt me. Do you know why they hate me? Said Naruto, looking up at Revan, who seemed to be hesitant about answering, but decided that he couldn't make the same mistake as the Hokage did. I do, Naruto. It is something that will be difficult for you to hear since the man, who is slightly responsible, is also a member of your family, though it was never meant to be done intentionally, and in the end had to be done, said Revan, seeing Naruto now had an eager look on his face. Tell me, Revan-sama, please, said Naruto, bowing before his ancestor, wishing to learn what so many have deprived him of over the years. First off, Naruto, don't call me that until we're training, and if not that, then simply just call me master, since you will be my apprentice since your father. Speaking of your father, I have to regretfully tell you that he was the one responsible for making the village hating you when he wanted them to see you as hero, said Revan, seeing Naruto look at him with wide blue eyes that absorbed this information fully. A hero? Why would he ask them to do that when they do the opposite? Said Naruto, wondering what possessed his father to do whatever it is he did. I assume that you know story 5 years ago pertaining to the attack by one nine-tailed demon Lord Fox known simply as Kyuubi, said Revan, seeing the boy nod while his mind thought back to what he remembered. Yeah, how the demon was killed by the Yondaime, right? Said Naruto, having heard the story from the old man, who told him it, and how the demon was defeated on his birthday of all days. He didn't kill the demon, Naruto. The creature lives inside of you. The Yondaime Hokage sealed the Kyuubi inside you, said Revan, seeing Naruto's eyes widen in full-blown shock at this news, and tears began to form in the boy's blue eyes. What? Me? Why? Why me? Said Naruto, his mind filled with so many thoughts, his heart now filled with betrayal, and with it both were filled by hate. He couldn't entrust this task to no other, Naruto. He gave this burden to you because it was a burden only a father could entrust to his son, said Revan, seeing Naruto once look at him in shock at the fact that his own father had done this to him, and then expect all of the ungrateful villagers in Konoha to simply embrace that wish. My father's name? Tell me it, said Naruto, his voice filled with sorrow, pain, anger, and lots of frustration. Namikaze Minato. Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, said Revan, seeing the boy's chakra manifesting itself around him while his eyes flashed red with slit-like pupils before they turned back to normal. Damn him, damn you father, yelled out Naruto, his voice letting out an inhuman howl of agony that echoed throughout the lower levels of the Namikaze estate. What do you want to do now, my apprentice? Now that you know the truth, what will you do? I have no intention of not training you in my arts or that of your father's, but I have a right to know what you will do, and how you intend to do it, said Revan, as he felt the chakra, and the force itself echo the boy's pain, making all who felt that power tremble in fear of it. The villagers that know the truth about Kyuubi see me as a demon. I can't change their arrogant views of me, but I can reach the minds of young generation. The ones that are not poisoned by their parents, the ones who do not have hate in their hearts, and turn the younger generation against old. I will make the old generation be betrayed by their own children, just as I was betrayed, and make those fools kneel, and cast all that they are in their beliefs at my feet. I will take all they hold dear and destroy all that means everything to them until their hands are finally in blood, said Naruto, his eyes now staying crimson and his teeth now were sharper with a more feral look to it. Spoken like a true descendant of Revan. Now, while you're not learning about what your ancestor could do, you will learn what your father could do, and that will involve seeing the upstairs of the estate to learn how to be a shinobi. How soon do you wish to begin? Said Revan, seeing the shaking still with rage and sorrow form the knowledge of what he had just learned. As soon as possible, said Naruto, his voice sounding tired and like he just screamed for a full hour. Very well, we will begin sometime tomorrow in this room. First, you need to get some form of food in your stomach, and then get some more rest. Your mind is tired and cannot work as it is now. You need time to process all you have learned tonight. This home is protected by advanced technology never before seen outside of this place and has the power to protect you from any who would try to take you from here," said Revan, seeing the boy nod before getting off the ground and leaving the room. "I'll be in my room resting then, master. Just have HK bring something in for me to eat," said Naruto before leaving the room to head back to his one so young yet filled with conflict. "Was my real self so much like that?" said Revan, wondering if that was the case or not. "Master, there are no more shinobi in the area, and the shield is still active. Do you wish to keep the shield on?" said HK-47, entering the room, seeing the form of Revan still in the room. "Yes. The shield generator is geothermal based HK, so there is no need to worry about losing the energy to power the shields. Also, make something healthy for Naruto, as he's a little short for his age, and quite skinny too. Something I can blame without a doubt on the villagers here in Konoha," said Revan, letting out a sigh, though how a holocron image could do that when just an image neither of the two knew. "If you wish, master, I could go on a killing spree just before detonating myself, and causing an unspeakable amount of death to all those meatbags in the village," said HK-47, as he was meant to serve as both a protocol, and more secretly as an assassin droid. "No HK, that won't be necessary. Also, I need you to get 2 items for me to have ready to give to Naruto when he's ready to receive them, and take up a new Sith title like I did," said Revan, since he could never part with it or the Sith title in a sense, since it was a part of him, and so would it be with Naruto. "Oh yes, master, I understand what you mean. I will prepare the young master's meal and then get the items you want me to get," said HK-47 before turning to complete his given task. Hokage Tower Meeting Room. It had been a late-night meeting for everyone in the room, and the councils didn't like it one bit, despite that it was a law that the Hokage had the power to summon them along with the clan heads on matters of great importance. This was of course one of those times, especially when it concerns Naruto, who had been topic of many discussions, and the old Hokage believed there would be many more in the near future. The fact they all sensed the powerful spike of chakra was also a factor too. "This is inexcusable, Hokage-sama," said a fat member of the civilian council, who like most of his fellow council members were mostly overweight, and had a gut that could rival an Akamichi if they tried. "I agree. The boy should have been given to me to use as our prized weapon," said Danzo, now getting nods from Homura and Kaharu that made Sarutobi frown at them. "Perhaps he should have been shown kindness and love like the Yondaime wished. Or is going against the dying wishes of a Hokage not low enough for you?" said Hiashi, seeing the various members of civilian and shinobi council scowling at him with the Hyuga returning it. "Tend to your own family, Hiashi, and stay out of matters that don't concern you," said the Haruno Hidoshi, a civilian council member, who was a successful merchant of middle class, but with a high-class voice that made sure everyone heard his name, and that they paid attention to him whether they wanted to or not. "I am Haruno, and I suggest you do the same with your family. Right now we have an even bigger problem to deal with, as Uzumaki Naruto has stumbled upon his family's home that you wanted to deprive him of since he was born, and now that he's discovered it, he will no doubt learn the truth about the Kyuubi in him. Whoever this person is that dwells within the Namikaze estate is clearly a lost member of the clan, or else they would not have had access to the estate itself." Minato made sure traps, seals, and various other defenses were in place to keep power-hungry shinobi away from the house. "I seem to remember a few Uchiha had been caught in said traps when they tried to break into the Namikaze estate," said Hiashi, seeing the Uchiha clan head Fugaku glare at Hiashi with sheer venom behind it. "That power should be given to the Uchiha clan for safekeeping. We have mastered everything else, so why not complete it with knowing how to use seals?" said Fugaku, who thought that such power should be in the grasp of the Uchiha clan, and not in an old compound collecting dust. "Because we all know that such power doesn't belong to you, period. If you want to take up sealing, learn how to do it like the rest of the potential seal-making apprentices out there. Don't expect your Sharingan to do everything for you," said Hiashi, seeing Fugaku activate his Sharingan and aimed it at the Hyuga head, who resisted its gaze with his Byakugan, and showed no fear towards the red eyes. "Enough. It's clear that the two councils and clan head made a mistake in letting this issue go concerning Naruto. We should have never let the news of Kyuubi being sealed be released to the public. We should have had the clans like Hyuga, Aburame, Inuzuka, and Nara to take the boy in to raise as their own. Now we must deal with the sins that we have created through this boy, and must wait to see what Naruto does when he reappears before us to decide our fate," said Sarutobi, seeing the council's look, shocked by the old Hokage's words. Like hell I am going to let a demon judge me. I refuse to let some abomination decide whether or not I should live simply for a few bad years living like the animal it was meant to be, said another councilman from the civilian council, who was not fat, but really old, and had lost his home to the Kyuubi through the swinging of one of its tails. You can't enter the Namikaze estate. It's currently surrounded by some kind dome of energy that we can't penetrate it with jutsus, weapons, or even our own bodies, said the Hokage, looking depressed about the situation. What do we tell the public? Said Homura, as people will suspect something when the boy was no longer around, and would want a reason for it. We tell them nothing for now since they don't need to know. It could add more fuel to the fire with riots, or if we alter the information in the slightest could make the people celebrate in thinking Naruto is dead. If anyone does ask and we have to give an answer, it should be one that doesn't cause panic or celebration, said Shibi, as he had seen Naruto on his good days, and how the boy seemed to cherish life that was nature around him. It was one of the reasons that he wanted to take Naruto into his home, which was very rare for the Aburame clan since only 2 people were ever adopted into the clan, and that was during the early years of Konoha's founding. I say we prepare for the demon's return and kill him the instant he leaves the sanctuary of his home, said Fugaku, who got several glares from the other clan heads, and from Sarutobi himself. As Shibi-san said, it could be months or even years before that energy field disappears, so all we can do is wait. You troublesome Uchihas are always thinking they are better than everyone else, said Nara Shikaku, who was, despite the late night, was awake due to the fact that this situation required his brain to function more, and actually be heavily awake for this. It's decided then. We wait for Naruto to come out of his family's estate and see how we should react. However, we must not provoke him, or we may ignite an explosive situation that we cannot contain, said the Hokage, getting a nod from the clan heads, a reluctant one from Uchiha Fugaku along with the civilian, and the shinobi council members. Namikaze estate lower levels. Naruto had awakened from a deep sleep to find himself in the comfortable bed once more before going through his morning rituals of cleaning, eating, food brought to him by HK-47, and the stretches that he had seen some shinobi do before practicing. Once finished that, Naruto dressed himself in a cleaner version of yesterday's clothing, and headed to the training room from yesterday that was filled with all of the holocrons that projected a version of his late ancestor. Upon entering the large room, the holocrons on both sides came to life, and projected the warrior that was Namikaze Revan. The figure looked down at his student, his apprentice, and his great-grandson that was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto kneeling before him in order to receive instructions for training. I see you are fully rested now, my apprentice. That in itself is a good thing since we will be focusing on your mind in the beginning of your training before we focus on learning anything else, said Revan, seeing Naruto nod, though he hoped it wasn't too challenging since his mind never could stay focused for long. What will I be learning that concerns my mind, my master? Said Naruto, having clearly remembered what Revan said about calling him master of Revan-sama if need be. First, go into mediation position and clear your mind of all things. We learn how to use the force before you can use chakra, said Revan, making Naruto look up at the projection while sitting in the meditative position. The force? What is the force, Master Revan? Said Naruto, not having heard this term before, and wondered if it was another basis for chakra. The force is an energy that comes from nature, Naruto. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds us to all living things. It's very rare for anyone here in this world to have any connection to the force due to people using chakra, Naruto. Most people pass it off as psychic abilities they think are blessed by kami, but it's actually the force that gives them their powers, and makes them different from others. You, Naruto, have the power to use both given your lineage, and the Kyuubi living inside of you unwillingly helping to further increase your chakra reserves, said Revan, seeing Naruto nod in understanding, finding that Revan was a very straightforward teacher that didn't bore you to sleep with lectures. Elsewhere, one Amino Uruka let out a powerful sneeze that made him his bed's headboard, and woke him up to a painful headache. What do I do about the Kyuubi, my master? Said Naruto, knowing that such a demon that was currently sealed inside of him could not be ignored and needed to be handled in a delicate manner. Nothing for now, my apprentice. You will have to do lots of chakra control exercises to help with the amount you have and will have in the distant future. To help with this process, I want you to learn the shadow clone jutsu your father has, which is located in the main library under the Junin class level scrolls, and learn it immediately, said Revan. Seeing the boy nod, but was also puzzled by the order, and Naruto felt the need to ask the question behind it. Why master? Said Naruto, since the explanation behind the reasoning would help him understand the method for it. Shadow clones are solid copies of the original Naruto. They use lots of chakra to make a few and even more to make a small army. You will learn this technique to help hone your skills as a shinobi, while the real you will stay here to train under me, and in the process help you grow at an astounding rate that no one has ever seen before, said Revan, as he found that Naruto was a proficient student in wanting to ask questions, and to grow in doing so, since that is how a student grows. By asking questions and understanding the answers behind it. I understand, Master Revan. I will do this at once after today's training with you in the ways of the Force, said Naruto, as his voice was filled with such seriousness when he spoke. It was almost chilling to the projection of Revan, and the persona created from the mixture of the many holocrons found this to be very interesting. Good. As of now, when we train, that will be your title. I will call you that and no other name until I see fit too. When I have deemed you strong enough, I will give you a title that reflects you through the Force, as many masters have done with their apprentices during my time, and it will be the name you will be known by during your time out from these walls to many, with your real name known to a few, said Revan, seeing the boy nod while still kneeling on the smooth floor. I await your instructions, my master, said Naruto, as he was going to thrive in his Force training, and make his family proud while making his enemies kneel in defeat, before he killed them. Very well, my apprentice. We will begin by reaching out to the Force itself. Go into meditative position and remove all thoughts from your mind. Think of nothing as you do this while expanding your senses outward. Do not fight it. Embrace it. Hear its call and focus on the whispers that echo throughout the Force, waiting to be heard by you, said Revan, seeing Naruto focus his mind and began to hear the Force whispering to him. I can hear it. I hear the voices of so many people. From Konoha and those without. This is incredible. Amazing, thought Naruto, finding his mind hearing the voices of people in Konoha and beyond its walls. I can't wait for that demon brat to make his appearance tomorrow. I'm going to stab his guts out with this butcher knife, said a voice in Konoha citizen, making Naruto angry at the smug-looking man, wishing that someone would cut that man's guts out instead. I wonder why mom had to go another council meeting so late? Was it because of the blonde-haired boy that some of the adults are telling kids to stay away from? He doesn't look dangerous. Why do they call him a demon? Said a female voice coming from the Inuzuka clan home, while the dog beside her began moving about as if sensing something was near its master, making Naruto slightly worried that the dog could somehow detect him. Mother is G getting more sick with each P passing D-Day, and S she's carrying my future brother or sister in her belly, said a quiet whispery voice of a sad girl from the Hyuga clan, making Naruto sad since the girl was so scared for the one she loved. Why do people run away from me? Why can't I sleep at night? Why do I see a scary monster when I do? Said a boy far away from Konoha, who seemed tormented in almost the same way, and it made Naruto frown when he sensed a dark entity inside of the boy that screamed for blood of those around the child. He's like me, thought Naruto, seeing the twisted spirit tied to the other boy. More than you know, kid, said another strange voice that was not his. Revan's that made Naruto break his connection in shock and jump to his feet while looking around. What's wrong, Naruto? Said Revan, seeing the boy looking frightened like a mouse in a house filled with cats. I think just heard the Kyuubi, said Naruto, seeing Revan shift his projected form for a second, as if contemplating something, but then went back to normal, and like nothing had happened. That is to be expected since the demon is connected to you, so it may be able to feel what you can when it comes to the Force. Fortunately, from what I understand of the seal on you, the demon can't try to turn it against you, and the seal used as a medium to create balance in you. It will be tricky and even dangerous, but I am confident that you will be able to trust your instincts enough to know when to back off when things get too dangerous, and let me guide you during your training, said Revan, who saw Naruto nod again before bowing, and began to resume his meditations once more. What should I do if I encounter Kyuubi again, master? Said Naruto, as he let his very being covered by the power of the Force, and find himself back where he was originally. Show no fear, be mindful of facing the beast, and do not bend its demands no matter how tempting the offer is, said Revan, watching his student carefully while going into mediation. What if the offer is true? Said Naruto, throwing out a hypothetical question out to the projection of his master. Relay the offer to me and I will decide if it has value, said Revan, as any offer by the Demon Lord could be a trick, and the best way to deal with it was to speak to him. Yes, my master, said Naruto, diving deep into the Force again only to find himself in a dark place filled with ankle-high water. It was a good thing Naruto was wearing combat boots or else it would feel weird. So you've come here. At last, said the deep voice from behind Naruto, who now had wide, and turned around slowly to come face to face with the demon that had been sealed inside of him. Kyuubi, said Naruto, his voice mixed with fear, anger, and something that might have been excitement. It was hard to tell when you stare at a huge nine-tailed fox that is looking back with fiery eyes. You came here while doing your mediation with the Force. I must admit I had a little help in doing that, as I wished to speak with you, and perhaps have a little conversation with you, said the Kyuubi looking down at Naruto with burning red eyes. About what, if I may ask? Said Naruto, keeping his distance from the cage, knowing that the bars on the cage that held the beast could still provide a way to hurt him via the large claws the fox possessed. About us working together, son of the Yondaime, said Kyuubi, grinning cruelly at its vessel while Naruto scowled at the Demon Lord. Don't call me that or I'll rip every single tail you have off one by one, said Naruto, his eyes a steel cold blue when staring at the fox. Hit a touchy subject, did I? How do you think I feel? Tell me, Kit, what do you know of the Sharingan? Said the Kyuubi, seeing the boy frown at the question. Nothing. What is it? Said Naruto, seeing Kyuubi's playful smile leave its face before it became serious looking. The Sharingan is a bloodline that is only found within the Uchiha clan. A clan that I helped create after a Hyuga branch member begged me to free him from cage bird seal like a whimpering puppy. This same Uchiha named Madara summoned me to attack Konoha against my will. Now you may find this surprising, Kit, but I am not the savage demon your village makes me out to be, and I find it insulting that they think of me as you, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto's eyes widen at this information, since it would mean that Kyuubi had gotten framed with him for something someone else did. Okay, say I believe you. Say that you got the raw end of a deal you had no say in, like me. What's in it for me in having this conversation with you at all? Said Naruto, as his instincts were telling him that the Kyuubi was telling the truth, and that perhaps the fox was all bad like everyone made it seem. I want to make a deal with you while I still can, said Kyuubi, seeing the boy frown at its suggestion and wondered what the fox meant. What do you mean? What kind of deal? Said Naruto, as he took a careful step forward, and waited for the impending strike from the fox with its claws going through the bars at his head. It never came. When you reach a certain age, I will be permanently sealed within you without means to escape this prison, and before you ask why I haven't done this before, I will tell you. You see, in order for me to free from my prison, I need to be helped from the other side by you, Naruto, and only through you can I gain my freedom. Now before you turn this deal down to free me, I want you to hear what the perks are of what will happen when I set my plan in motion, and what it means for the both of us, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto nod his head, since it was only fair to hear out the deal rather than ignore it. Go on, said Naruto, waiting for the Demon Lord to explain the plan and the deal. If you were to agree in freeing me from my prison, I can make you a half-demon with half of my tails going to you, and I keep the other half. Now while I will be free to the outside world, I will still be tied to you, and will still give you the other half of my tailed power. I will gain it back eventually, of course, but only after the tails I have go back to you, and you get it all. I will be the equivalent of a servant to you until such time that I am truly free from the seal, when all my tails are given to you. The end result will make you a demon lord like me, but not until you are at least 18 years of age, when the physical body has fully matured, and reaches its prime performance level, said Kyuubi, seeing the boy take all this information in and seemed to be thinking about it. How long until the deadline for this deal ends? Said Naruto, as he wished to talk to Revan about it and see if he should proceed. 3 years from now, when the moon turns blood red, said Kyuubi, seeing the boy nod before turning to leave this place in his mind that allowed him to speak to Fox. Before I accept your deal, I wish to talk this over with Master Revan, and if he feels that you are in fact pure in your intentions, then we will proceed with this plan. However, if your words regarding this plan are filled with poison, I will not speak to you again, and wait for that day when you are finally no more, said Naruto before leaving fully and exiting his mind. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. I can wait a little longer, and my intentions are pure despite the cautionary steps you wish to place between us. When time comes, I will be free, and when I do the fun can begin for the end for the old generation of Konoha just like you envisioned, said Kyuubi before transforming into its human form that was the age of a late 16 maybe early 17-year-old, who was now naked, of the female gender with flowing crimson hair, and tails that moved to cover her private areas. Oh yes, Kyuubi could wait, and when the waiting was done she would see to it had all that had been foreseen in the distant future came to pass. Several years passed for Naruto, as he stayed in the Namikaze estate living in upper levels, and the lower level when he was too tired from training to head up to his other bed. During that time, Naruto had learned much in terms of using chakra, jutsus, and the ways of the force taught by his multiple holocron-made teacher. Unfortunately, when it came to learning about being a shinobi, Naruto found that he had to learn while doing, as he didn't trust the old man to teach him anything if the shield were let down, and the risk of the Hokage abducting Naruto if given the opportunity was too high. Still, Naruto persevered through it all, using his father's notes, books, and everything his baka of a father had in the house that would make him a skilled warrior of the shinobi arts. When Revan asked why follow in his father's footsteps as a shinobi, Naruto told the holocron-made image he wasn't, and that he wasn't becoming a shinobi. He would become a Jedi like Revan had been, but also use the shinobi arts when they were needed, and it couldn't hurt to have them should he become drained from constantly using the force too much. During the years that passed, Naruto used various swords before moving up to training level lightsabers to perform the various sword arts, and the hand-to-hand combat moves Revan learned during his time in the Mandalorian Wars. The fighting style was a mixture of Echani fighting and Mandalorian combat training that made it all the more potent in itself. Revan told Naruto that each skill he uses with the Force is aligned to either the dark side or the light side, with each giving the user unique powers. So far, Naruto had learned how to heal with the Force using the light side, and hurting people using Sith lightning with the dark side. Though as Naruto later learned, the Sith lightning takes a lot out of a Force user despite having lots of hate in his system from multiple factors, and needed to be controlled better. In addition to this training, Naruto also learned more about his ancestor, the Republic, the Jedi, the Sith, and the Mandalorian Wars Revan fought in only to get thrown into a Jedi civil war not long after. Naruto didn't understand this Jedi Council, as those that judge you without being on the front lines of war had no right to judge, and it reminded Naruto a lot of the two councils in Konoha that always tried to judge him because of Kyuubi. Revan also told Naruto about the original HK-47, how he was created many years ago by Revan to be an assassin droid while disguised as a protocol droid, and had always had a high form of bloodlust even for an assassin droid. Of course, Revan had also explained that unlike the original HK-47, the one that was in the house no longer added the words, statement, or query, before saying sentences that were as such, and had modified the current HK-47 to speak without doing such things. Through the years during his time mediations, Naruto felt various echoes throughout the Force from within and from without Konoha. From within, Naruto sensed pain from the Hyuga household from a shy little girl named Hinata, and had recently been granted a little baby sister named Hanabi. However, it came at the cost of losing her mother, and giving her the now grieving father a means to vent his anger out on her for the loss. The man knew it wasn't her fault, but Hinata was hated for the terrible loss of her mother all the same, and her cousin Neji was not much help either after losing his father due to an incident with Kumo a few years back when Hinata was 3 years old. Another soul Naruto sensed in pain was a purple-haired woman named Anko, who hated the fact people thought she was her backstabbing sensei, and treated her as such. She had been attacked several times by villager and shinobi alike, with only the Sandaime along with another scarred man named Ibiki protecting her. Anko had several rape attempts made on her, but they failed after she had used what training she had acquired from her time with Orochimaru that she could remember, and later on from Ibiki to help fend her attackers off. Such fools these people are. I look forward to breaking them down the road, thought Naruto, as he wished to help those that suffered, but found that he wasn't strong enough despite his growing rate and skill. Outside of the village, the pain was no different, as Naruto sensed the boy he felt years prior known simple as Subaku no Gaara, and that he was a demon vessel too. Only the difference was that the seal Gaara had was incomplete, making the boy unstable, and after what happened with the boy's uncle at the age of 6 made the boy embrace his hate for the world. Several times, Naruto had appeared before Subaku no Gaara when he was alone using the force to speak to the insomnia-possessed boy. But Gaara kept trying to kill him, or tell him to leave him alone while thinking it was Shukaku playing tricks on his mind. He used the projection on Hinata, but she got scared thinking he was a ghost, and it took several attempts to get her to calm down so she wouldn't make a scene. It had taken some time, but Hinata had gotten a chance to open up to him, as Naruto told her he meant no harm, and wished to help her become a better person despite what had happened at her home. Hinata had become very depressed with the knowledge of her mother dying and her father taking it out on her while calling her worthless. Naruto told her that it wasn't her fault that her mother died, as such things tend to happen from time to time, and that she should show her father that she was in fact strong. When Hinata asked for his name, Naruto told her to call him the Namikaze, and to keep their conversations a secret since no one would believe them. The only problem Naruto had was the projection itself being a pain to do even in Konoha, where he tested it out further on cold windy nights, spooking citizens into thinking there were ghosts about, and scaring them half to death. The idea of such a skill being used as a prank was fun, but Revan had told him that was not what the technique was for, and told him to use it during the day to listen to the academy teachers with their lectures to help him understand the ways of the shinobi better, along with secretly spying on the younger generation to see who he could corrupt to his side. Naruto reluctantly agreed to using the projection during the class while listening to the teachers talk about the basics of being a shinobi, the history of Konoha, and famous people in Konoha, with the favorite it seemed being the death of Kyuubi. Naruto hated those particular lectures, as they went on how the Yondaime was able to slay the stupid demon, and while Naruto had no love for Kyuubi at the moment despite the deal she presented, he hated the people of Konoha even more. Interestingly enough, Naruto found that with further concentration, he could use the force in the classroom to create a little bit of chaos, and prank the stupid teachers in the classroom without mercy. One in particular prank that was quite possibly his favorite, as well as by possibly the most draining to do, was making a teacher lose control of his or her bowels, and have them crap their pants during one of their lecture. The teacher would make a loud farting noise, which would get the attention of the students in the class, and see the brownish stain leaking through the teacher's pants. The doctors and nurses of Konoha were stumped by this and thought it might be some kind of stress-related disease done from teaching students at the academy for so long. Speaking of the doctors and nurses of Konoha, Naruto had a fun time pranking them too, as they had always given Naruto a hard time when he had been hospitalized from past beatings, and always giving him worthless meds. For the nurses, he would push up their skirts in front of doctors and patients to reveal what kind of panties they wore, making several male patients have nosebleeds, while some, the wives, filed UAL harassment lawsuits, getting the nurses nearly fired. The doctors were plagued the same way with a trouser malfunction, causing them to flash their female patients and get them in trouble with the Hokage since he had to deal with all the paperwork for it. Still, all the pranking aside, Naruto felt that he needed to be outside of the walls of the Namikaze estate, but knew that if he went now, then it would get him in trouble, and Revan would be most displeased. Besides, the offer that Kyuubi made to him years ago was still on the table, and while Revan had said that it was a good deal, that Naruto should look to the Force for guidance on this matter. So Naruto did. Like Revan had been when he was alive, Naruto could see a glimpse of the future, and the outcome of his actions by accepting or rejecting the offer while waiting those few years to determine the outcome. From what the visions showed, the offer was indeed true, as Kyuubi did want freedom, and was willing to give up her power for it while knowing that she could get it all back later on, even if she was still tied to Naruto during that time while being his servant. When Naruto consulted the holocron image of Revan with his findings, the image of the once great Jedi considered that Naruto should take the offer, and become a half-demon before ascending to that of a full demon in years to come. The village was going to see him as a demon anyway, so why not let them have their wish and give them one? Naruto decided to take the Kyuubi's deal while in the open field of his estate to give him the needed room to prevent any damage to be done to the house. Naruto's mindscape, so you finally showed up. After several years of waiting, I actually suspected you were going to turn me down, and let me die slowly inside of you, said Kyuubi, now in her giant fox form, despite him knowing she was a female demon by seeing her human form from his visions when mediating. Sorry, I was busy with my training and your offer was something I couldn't just accept right away, said Naruto, as Revan had warned him about giving into temptation when doing so did more harm than good, and told him to learn to control such thoughts. For nearly 3 years? Less than a week before time was up, said Kyuubi, who raised a large fur-covered eyebrow at him, and Naruto just shrugged. I need to be cautious when it comes to making deals. I had to look into the future to see if the events of such an agreement would be by undoing or a blessing. Would you prefer I not take you up on your offer without so much as not telling you at all until I had to speak with you again? Said Naruto, seeing the look on Kyuubi's fox-like features, and he knew that she agreed with him even if she wouldn't admit it. Point well taken. So you want to make the deal, correct? Said Kyuubi, as she needed to willingly agree to this, and actually say he agreed, so it was all legit. Even Kami had eyes in this place. Yes, I, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, willingly accept your deal made by you, Kyuubi no Kitsune, to become a half-demon, and later into a full demon in exchange for giving you freedom, said Naruto, as he had learned much in his father's library about demons, and the deals they make in exchange for certain things they themselves could not achieve. The deal has been made and agreed to. For this to work I must claw you with my mark to prove that the deal is official. Step forward to receive the means to become a half-demon, said Kyuubi, who now moved slightly closer to the cage, and waited for Naruto to be within striking distance. I am ready. See you on the outside, said Naruto, as if he were talking to an inmate, and the said inmate just got out for good behavior. Same goes for you too, Naruto-kun, said Kyuubi, making Naruto's eyebrow rise just before the fox demon struck with her claws, piercing his right shoulder, and then sent a massive pulse of demonic chakra into it, make the mark that would be on him forever like a scar. Though to most it would look like a tattoo. Naruto screamed out in pain, staggering back as he did in his mindscape, knowing that he was physically feeling this on the outside, and spraying blood all over the room where his master was. Clutching the massive wound, Naruto felt the whole place around him begin to change. His body was feeling out of place, and his very consciousness strayed out of what realm of time he was in. Hokage Tower. Hokage's office. Sarutobi here is inside at the mountain of paperwork involved for keeping Konoha alive in order to run the village, which lied in this abundant pile of dead trees that were remade into writing material. Originally, the councils were supposed to do their own paperwork before sending it to the Hokage to approve each stamp they made on each document, but over the years the councils had taken liberties in giving all the work to the Hokage to do, and they get to do whatever they wanted. Hardly a fair trade. I get stuck doing paperwork while they all relax and plot to destroy the last of Minato's legacy, thought the Sandaime, as he wondered if things could get any worse for him, and if there was, would it please take him away from the paperwork. People should really be careful what they ask for. No sooner had Sarutobi made that silent little wish, did the old man get it in the form of a massive demonic charca spike coming from the Namikaze estate, and if he felt it, then so did everyone else. It wasn't as potent as what was felt years ago, but it was still pretty massive, as the amount given off was more than enough to wipe Konoha off the face of the planet, and all that dwelled within it. Oh crap, said Sarutobi before heading out to the Namikaze estate, knowing that every shinobi in Konoha from Loli Chunin to Anbu to clan heads would be heading there. Oh how Sarutobi wished he hadn't accidentally killed his lucky fish. Namikaze estate. The once retired Hokage arrived with what seemed hundreds if not all the shinobi within the village at the large estate that once belonged to the Yondaime, still covered by the ever-strange energy dome. Inside the dome, the large army of shinobi saw Naruto lying face down on the ground while crimson chakra surrounded his being. And many shinobi feared that the boy had unleashed the Kyuubi in order to get revenge for their cruel past mistreatment of him. Several shinobi had tried to pierce the dome of energy, only to be repelled backwards roughly, and thrown into their comrades that caught them. What do we do, Hokage-sama? Said Kakashi, as he had left Anbu to become a Junin to possibly teach a genin team. Pray, said the Hokage in a whisper, as the manifestation of the Kyuubi's face appeared above Naruto's fallen form, roaring with rage and power before landing next to Naruto, and creating a physical human body manifestation. I'm free. Yes, said Kyuubi in her human-looking form, with her now human-sounding voice, as she bounced around happy to be free from her cage, and out in the world once more. At that moment, all the male shinobi seeing her got an immediate nosebleed, and flew off in all directions at the sight of her naked female body. Seeing the state that she put the males of the leaf in, Kyuubi decided to have some, if only just little modesty, and snapped her fingers to create a smooth crimson kimono that did little to hide her white body. Turning to the one who freed her from her Shinigami prison, Kyuubi picked up a now-changed Namikaze Naruto, and held him tightly to her bosom. Kyuubi, said Naruto weakly, as he looked up at her with tired eyes, and wondered if what he was seeing was in fact real at the moment. Hello Naruto-kun. You must be tired from what I did. At least your wound is healing nicely, though it will leave a scar I'm afraid, said Kyuubi, seeing the now shirtless boy's chest now had a scar on it like he had been clawed downward. Well, you did kind of stab me with those claws of yours, said Naruto weakly before letting out a chuckle at her smiling at him. I know, but don't you worry, as I don't intend to hurt you anymore, and I'm going to help make things up to you, said Kyuubi, kissing his forehead now sporting a few locks of red hair here and there. I feel sleepy, said Naruto, finding he was more tired from the process than he originally thought. Let's get you to bed then, said Kyuubi, taking him inside to get some well-deserved rest, as she knew that Naruto would be out of it for a while, and need to regain control of his body now that it had changed. Hokage-sama, we need to do something. The demon is free and inside the Namikaze estate with the boy, said an Anbu while wondering if there was anything they could do. There is nothing we can do. Call a meeting of every elite shinobi, the 2 councils, and the clan heads. We must figure this out in case things turn out for the worst, said the aged Hokage, knowing that there was still time to form some kind of plan to handle this new development. Where was Jiraiya when you needed him? Namikaze estate master bedroom. Sleep well now my Naruto-kun. You foxy servant has things that need to be done and certain people to speak to, said Kyuubi, kissing him on the forehead, and tucked the boy into the bed before leaving to head to the lower levels to speak to Revan. Making her way to the lower levels, Kyuubi ran into HK-47, who paused and seeing her, and decided to keep playing as the protocol droid for the moment until the time was right to remove this new guest. Greetings strange female. May I be of service? Said HK-47 while wondering who this woman was and why she had animal-like traits like that of a fox. Yes HK-47, I wish to speak to the one known as Revan. I am the former demonic tenant of one Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, known to many as Kyuubi no Kitsune, said Kyuubi, seeing the droid process this information. Ah, I see. You are the demon fox the younger master is hated for. Such a shame he had to go through all that pain because of those arrogant meatbags in the village. I do hope you intend to kill nice chunk of them before letting the young master have his chance at the rest, said HK-47, as he escorted Kyuubi to the room where Naruto spoke to Revan while learning all he could about the Force and the man's past. No sooner had they entered did the holocron projection of one Namikaze Revan appear before them with his arms crossed and looking at Kyuubi. I take it the deal worked and Naruto is in fact alive? Said Revan, seeing that Kyuubi only had 4.5 tails, meaning that Naruto had the others. Of course Revan-sama. The deal I made with Naruto will be honored to its fullest, as I promised it would, and I would never break promise like those disgusting humans in the village. If I did, I would be lower than them, and I refuse to lower than those insects that think they are invincible because I was defeated by their strongest warrior, said Kyuubi, finding that her pride was hurt a little at that last part since she was the strongest of the demon lords after all. Good. However, this action may have complicated things, as HK has informed me of the estate sensors detecting an army of shinobi arriving here upon your freedom to no doubt investigate the situation, and have seen you regain your lost freedom. When Naruto has recovered from this trial, I want you to train him in the demonic arts that he can learn with what tails he has, and then help him relearn what he already knows. The latter part shouldn't be too difficult since it's like riding a bike, so I want you to do that part last with him, as I need him to be learning from you without the help of the shadow clones, and relearn everything from scratch, said Revan, which meant that Naruto's connection to the Force would need to be retested all over again. Of course, but before I do that, I want to have a little fun with Konoha again, as I rather liked the pranks Naruto pulled on the people here, and want to help continue it while he's busy sleeping, said Kyuubi, grinning wickedly at Revan, and the figure simply nodded in understanding. Very well. Though if things get too much for you Kyuubi, I want you back here where it's safe, and they won't try to use you in some way to get Naruto away from here. You are not as strong as you were before, and while they will be cautious at first, it will only take one of them to exploit it when seen, said Revan, knowing that Naruto had wanted to give Kyuubi the benefit of the doubt concerning the deal she made to him years ago. But even still, the chance of the demon still having ulterior motives was a high probability, and she would have to be watched more carefully until a solid amount of proof showed that she was indeed trustworthy. Oh goody. I look forward to making their lives miserable before Naruto-kun does it himself, said Kyuubi, letting out a wicked chuckle leave her mouth and then have it become an evil laugh with her eyes glowing crimson red. Master, it would seem that the fox-based female is having one of those moments, which are similar to mine when I plan to harm an arrogant meatbag, and is going to carry it out with extreme efficiency, said HK-47, as he still didn't understand the term, demonic. But in his own databank's definition, it basically meant someone who has the will to do unspeakable things to another, and caused almost unlimited amount of pain to another with little to no remorse. Yes HK, I believe she is, said Revan, as Kyuubi walked out of the room while rubbing her clawed hands together, and looked anxious to inflict some manner of sadistic pain on someone. Hokage Tower. So the demon is finally freed from its prison. I knew the Yondaime was a fool. Such a creature like the Kyuubi cannot be contained no matter how skilled the seal master, said Uchiha Fugaku, as he scowled at the situation in front of him, and how the many attempts to have the boy killed turned down. Perhaps this wouldn't have happened had we been nice to the boy rather than calling for his death, and the constant hunts for him on his birthday, said Sarutobi, seeing the many people in the room squirming uneasily, as they had been responsible one way or another in the boy's mistreatment, and those that didn't were still nervous given they knew nothing of the boy's mental stability. Or instability for that matter. What do you purpose we do then? Shower him with presents? Beg for forgiveness? We beat the demon once before and I say we can do it again. All we need to do is to summon the Shinigami again and reseal it up again before actually killing its tenant soon after, said Homura, getting nods from the civilian council and the shinobi one too. And who to you purpose performs the sealing again, Homura-san? You? Me? Someone here that has little to no sealing experience? The only one that could do such sealing would be either the Yondaime or Jiraiya of the Sannin, but neither are here at the moment despite fact that Kyuubi's power was felt throughout the elemental countries, and is now returning to investigate, said Hiashi, looking on at the council members trying to do some stupid idea that would do doubt fail, and everyone would pay the price for it. In the time that his wife had died not long after giving birth to Hanabi, Hyuga Hiashi had become cold, almost cruel to his eldest daughter Hinata, and belittled constantly. However, recently during the most recent years, did Hinata grow stronger again, but still kept her caring nature that was frowned upon by the elders, and what Hiashi himself had been drawn to in regards to his late wife. She had been the same way, telling Hiashi that the cage bird seal was cruel, and earning the respect of the branch family for her open beliefs in going against such a cruel seal. Hisashi had also expressed such things with him in private, as he wanted his brother to understand that if the seal truly did protect one from learning the secrets of the Byakugan, then it should be worn by all of its members, and not just on section of the family that become slaves against their will. Hiashi had come to agree on that long after his dear brother died, protection him and the clan from losing the secrets their bloodline held when Hinata was 3 years old. Now it seemed that cruel hand of fate was going to point the finger at his own children to mark one of them with the cage bird seal. Hanabi herself was showing remarkable progress, but so was Hinata, and when Hiashi asked her about how she gained this newly discovered strength, the poor girl blushed, saying it was a guiding spirit. The last time Hinata had blushed like that was when she was 4.5 years old, rushing to both of them, and telling them how she was saved from being picked on by a group of boys by another boy her age. One with raging sun-like hair with deep blue eyes that were like lakes you wanted to swim in and never get out of. Both parents of course knew she was referring to Uzumaki Naruto. Fight for him, Hiashi-kun. Fight for him when no one else will, said Hitomi, as she laid in her bed looking up at her husband, who nodded, knowing his wife was always a good judge of character, and wanted to give the Yondaime the benefit of a doubt regarding his skills in the art of sealing. Not to mention there are no newborn babies arriving anytime soon. And if we did, I would use a child from one of you council members, since it will make you realize how precious your child really is, and understand the ramifications of treating the Yondaime's son like garbage, said the Sandame, making many people in the room flinch at that since they had learned the truth and were feeling like crap at the moment. You humans are such foolish creatures. Always jumping the gun on everything you do, said Kyuubi, appearing through a flare of fire that blinded everyone in room for a good 10 seconds before they could see her form. It's the demon, said a civilian council member, seeing the fox ears and numerous tails that made her physical beauty all the more spectacular to stare at. How observant of you. And to think, I almost thought your minds were so inferior that I thought you were all a bunch of feces-throwing ape-like bakas, said Kyuubi sarcastically to them while smirking at them all before staring at Sarutobi, who narrowed his eyes at her, and she in return made her smirk increase several-fold. I don't know how you got free from your cage demon, but I won't stand for it, and I will see to it that yo-ah, said Fugaku, who had risen from his seat during his speech, and activated his eyes to use on the female demon. The end result made him lose his eyes with a single swipe from Kyuubi, who now held them in her hand, and crushed them in front of everyone. The Uchiha clan is still as arrogant as ever, I see, said Kyuubi before turning her gaze to the old Hokage, who was trying not to show his fear, and was slowly failing to do so in the process. I take it you didn't come here for a visit and to remove the Uchiha clan head's eyes for his outburst, said the Sandaime, trying to be as diplomatic as possible since such things allowed more lives to be saved rather than lost. Of course, doing that to the Uchiha was just a bonus. You see, I'm here to talk about Naruto-kun, and how I am most displeased with how he has been treated early on in his life. Given who his father was, I would have thought you filthy humans would have gone out of your way to spoil him silly, but instead you do the opposite, and have tried to kill him on so many occasions. And for what? To get a shot at hurting me? Please, not once did I feel a single shred of pain during all those times Naruto was attacked by your oh-so-noble reasons. Not that it matters anymore since Naruto hates his father, all of you, and the village for your past sins. Sins that, I imagine, will be paid out in full with that of your blood, and more importantly, your very souls, said Kyuubi, her eyes glowing crimson and her fangs showing for all to see, making several council members on both sides let out a shiver. The boy won't kill us. It would be trampling on his father's legacy, as the defender of this village, and hero to Konoha, said Kaharu, not liking how this demon stood before them and wished the creature would just die. Oh, he won't, will he? How do you know? Did you befriend him? Did any of you try to take him in when the orphanage was making him miserable? Did you give him food that wasn't spoiled? Who here actually gave a damn about my vessel when I was inside of him to shield him from the villagers and shinobi that tried to kill him time after time? Said Kyuubi, folding her arms under her nicely shaped S while glaring at everyone in the room. You're right, none of us have truly tried to befriend him, said Sarutobi dejectedly, as he took off his hat to run his hand through his white-aged hair, and the look in his eyes showed only sorrow. Hokage-sama, don't let this demon push us around. You must defend the honor of this village and Konoha's people, said Danzo, trying to gain some form of support from those around him for sticking up for them when the Hokage wouldn't. Why, what Kyuubi has said right here in this room is 100% true. Minato told us with his dying breath that Naruto was to be seen as a hero, to be loved as a hero should for what he held inside, and instead we do the opposite with the civilian council using its power to prevent Naruto from having what was his inheritance. You Danzo wanted to use the boy like he was some weapon to control, and it was because I turned it down that you decided to side with them on the matter with my two teammates in your pocket, said Sarutobi, looking at his former teammates with a heavy glare, making them look away with a scowl on their faces. How right you are, old-looking Hokage. So now that we've taken care of that, I'm going to set down some ground rules for all of you so we're perfectly clear on what's going to happen concerning Naruto, and if you go against it I'll make sure that what's left of you is sent to your grandkids for their birthday, said Kyuubi, making several of the old shinobi and civilians in the room sweat a little at that since they didn't want to die just yet. What are your terms, Kyuubi-sama? Said Sume, as she had been trying to find a way to get Naruto into her compound for protection when he was younger, but just couldn't find anything, and the councils were becoming a big pain in the ass for the clan heads at the moment. First, I want Naruto have free roaming access to any and all areas like the Sannin do, and are not allowed to be revoked when he not here. If you do, Naruto is within his rights to come back here, slaughter all of you, and burn this village to the ground with extreme prejudice. Second, Naruto can harm any and all shinobi and civilians that have tried to hurt him in the past without any form of punishment, and should you try, I'll personally see to it that both genders in this room can never have children. Third, Naruto is to have a seat on this massive council you have here among the clan heads, which I will be taking a seat in since he is still too young to do himself, and I will be treated with respect as if I were a Namikaze too. Any objections? said Kyuubi before flaring her power, making most of the shinobi in the room begin to sweat and the others breathing heavily, getting ready to pass out. "And no objections," said Sarutobi, wishing the she-demon would stop, as the power she was using was making them feel like she was crushing their windpipes. "Good. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go tell Naruto-kun when he wakes up, and help him cause as much mischief as possible," said Kyuubi, skipping out the door with an evil smile on her face. "Minato, I'm so sorry," thought Sarutobi, as he struggled to regain his normal breathing, and find some way to make it up to Naruto all the same. Namikaze Estate Master Bedroom. Hours later. Naruto groaned, as he awakened feeling tired from what he did to free Kyuubi, and found himself in the master bedroom of his home, and struggled to get up while feeling as if he gained a couple £100. After several failed attempts, Naruto finally succeeded in getting out of bed, only to fall right on his face, and let out a string of curse words he didn't know he knew, and wondered if that was because of Kyuubi putting them in his head during the transformation. He would have to make a mental note to talk to her about that. Walking into the room, Naruto noticed that while the lights were off, he could see clearly in the dark, and remembered that his senses were now enhanced a great deal from the transformation. Fighting the urge to turn on a light, knowing what would happen if he did see his own reflection, Naruto examined his face in the mirror, and nearly jumped back in surprise when he saw himself. Not only had his face changed, but so did the rest of him, as he was now taller from the 4 feet 3 to a major shot upward to being 5 feet 4, and his face had burned away a good portion of his baby fat, revealing chiseled looks of what he would look like in the near future. His upper body wasn't bad either, as he noticed his body had acquired some hardened muscle, or rather harder muscles, thanks to being a half-demon, since he already had such muscle before. His hands now sported claws, which were no real surprise to him, and Naruto was actually looking forward to putting them to good use. "I have this sudden urge to hurt some people from my past," said Naruto, as he gripped his claw into a fist, and smiled into the mirror while his blue eyes became red, and the pupils became slits. The crimson tails behind him swished with movement, as Naruto was feeling bloodlust running through his body, and making him want to train heavily today. With that in mind, Naruto headed for his closet, and got dressed while noticing that HK-47 had been in his room to give him new larger clothing sizes after getting the proper measurements. Something that Naruto was grateful for, since he didn't want to wear tight clothes that made him feel tighter down south, which from what he saw looked longer than before, and for some reason felt proud of it. He needed to have a talk with Revan about that. Walking down the steps of his home, Naruto found Kyuubi sitting on the couch snacking on some fruit, vegetables, and gourmet cheese while drinking a bottle of fresh sake. She seemed to have been having the time of her life, relishing in the delights before her, and Naruto wondered if she had spilled anyone's guts over the Hokage monument yet. Or was she going to let him do that if he wanted? "So you're finally awake, I see. Excellent," said Kyuubi, having sensed her new master through their link, finding that the boy had grown quite a bit given his half-demon stage. "I have some questions for you that I hope you'll answer me truthfully," said Naruto, sitting in a chair opposite of her while wrapping his tails around himself. "Of course. Far be it from me to lie to my new master," said Kyuubi, as she found the boy to be quite incredible looking, and knew by the time the boy fully matured would have an army of women after him wanting to have his children. "Thanks, I think. Anyway, about my changes, is there any way to conceal them, since a lot of people aren't exactly welcome to me being around while looking human, and I don't want people outside of the village knowing about this either," said Naruto, blushing a little from Kyuubi's comment, while Kyuubi herself nodded in understanding, since the boy wanted to have friends and allies outside of the village. "Of course you can. Right now, the stage you are in now is what we call a Yuko form, with the tails, ears, and claws that show off your new fox heritage, and with a little focus on your part will be able to keep those tails of your hidden," said Kyuubi, seeing the boy look relieved at that, since it would give him a chance to make friends if not the ones in the village. "Okay. I would like to begin my training right away, Kyuubi-sensei," said Naruto, seeing the foxwoman nod at him. "Very well. When I'm done teaching you for the day, go speak to Revan about relearning the Force, and focus on getting your control back. He said it wouldn't be that hard, so I think you'll take care of that easily enough," said Kyuubi, getting off the couch, and then handed the tray of various eatable treats to her student. "Thanks, Kyuubi-sensei. I was starving up until now," said Naruto, as he began eating just a little bit of everything, and loved the taste of it. "No problem, Naruto-kun. But don't add sensei to my name, and just call me Kyuubi or if you want. Kyuubi-chan, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto nod, though it was clear he didn't know why, and she knew she would have to give him the talk soon to help him along. Oh well, it was better than HK-47 teaching it, and him really screwing up the kid's mind. Hokage's office a few days later. Are you sure about this? Said the Hokage, looking at the weasel-masked Anbu in front of him, who simply nodded, and saw the old man let out a heavy sigh. This job was not meant for the old. Yes. It seems my arrogant father Uchiha Fugaku will not tolerate Naruto's presence one way or the other long after he lost his eyesight at the hands of Kyuubi. Even now, he is planning to have the entire clan attacking Naruto and Kyuubi once the shield is down, and claim the riches of the Namikaze estate to increase the strength of the clan, said the weasel-masked Anbu, who saw the Hokage's eyes narrow at that, and the burst of killer intent made the Anbu shiver unnoticeably from it. The old man may be old, but he still had that fire in him, and it wasn't out just yet. You know what you had to do. If you do this, then I can't have you in the village, and will have to become a missing nin, said Sarutobi, as he had begun his investigation of the Uchiha clan silently using his most trusted Anbu spy, that was Uchiha Itachi. I owe Kushina-sensei everything for what she taught me to become stronger, and I intend to protect Naruto in order to repay my debt back to her, said Itachi, as Kushina had been in a coma ever since giving birth to Naruto, and had yet to wake up. If only we could get Tsunade back here for a little while, then perhaps she could find a way to get Kushina out of that coma, and help raise Naruto, said Sarutobi, letting out a sigh of defeat, and wondered what it was that had made him so spineless in the first place. Maybe we could ask the Kyuubi. It's clear she is somewhat fond of the boy, and if we told her the situation would help us since the boy could use a mother in his life, said Itachi, seeing Sarutobi look at him with shock. No, Kyuubi must never know about Kushina. If she did, then the demon might kill the woman in secret rather than save her, and then the blame would be on us for not telling Naruto originally, said Sarutobi, knowing that the boy may resent everyone in Konoha by the time this was over. The only question now was who was at the top of the boys' list. Very well, I will proceed with Operation U-Clan Purge right away in approximately 4 days, Hokage-sama, said Itachi, as he left the Hokage's office, and the Hokage himself smoked his pipe to help deal with the stress of what happened. Minato, when I see you again, I'm going to make sure that you get the ass-kicking of a lifetime that will be surpassed only by your wife and your son for what you did. Always thinking with your heart and not your head was your flaw in life, just as it was one of your greatest strengths too, said the Sandaime, as he looked out at Konoha with its people all running around doing their own thing, not realizing that a terrible force, ironically of their own creation, was about to descend upon them. Namikaze Estate 3 days later. Kyuubi watched as Naruto worked himself ragged the past couple of days since training started, and was impressed by his determination to push himself to the point of being unconscious. In a way, Naruto was the ideal student any teacher would give their right arm for, as he absorbed information like a sponge, and then manipulated it in a way that it would work for him if the traditional way didn't. I don't have to be sadistic in my training methods, the boy embraces them willingly, and it's almost frightening, thought Kyuubi, as she had done her fair share of making every bit of Naruto's training harsh, but the boy kept coming back for more, as if to say he did not care about the pain, and just kept on getting up for more. As Revan expected, Naruto took to his training like fish due to swimming in water, and everything he had learned when training in the shinobi arts. Basically, it was everything that it was before, only, well, easier in a sense, and progressed at an astounding rate. Since that was the case, Kyuubi decided to teach Naruto more about his demonic powers, and how they were connected to nature itself. She also taught him how to fight in her taijutsu style known as the Kitsune Fist, which when incorporated into what Naruto already knew made his skills in hand-to-hand combat unmatched, and were devastating to say the least. Kyuubi also told him how to control his Yuko form by channeling his human chakra while keeping his demonic chakra down to allow the transformation to go smoother. Kyuubi told him that when he became a full-fledged demon in the future, he would be able to change into a full human-like form at will, and simply pass off his traits as a bloodline limit. Which was why he stood before Revan without tails, his fox ears gone, and his clawed hands normal with a slightly sharp edge to them, just so he could feel some part of his demon side still active if just undetectable to anyone else. Revan himself was surprised how fast the boy had progressed in his training, but then realized it shouldn't be any real surprise, since Naruto was a namikaze, and of the actual namikaze Revan's descendant. I am pleased to hear from what Kyuubi has told me of your training, you progressed well, and the same can be said for learning to understand your new force powers, said Revan, seeing his apprentice nod and smile at him in accepting the compliment. Thank you, master. I understand you have a present for me, said Naruto, as HK-47 had told him he was getting a gift, and that it was a surprise. Yes. HK, bring in the case, said Revan, with HK-47 coming in at the command of his holocorn projected master. Yes, master. Here is the case you requested, said HK-47, as he presented a small metal case, and handed it to a curious Naruto. When Naruto opened it, the case revealed 2-cylinder lightsabers, and looked at each of them with awe at the design. Those at one point were the original Revan's lightsabers, said Revan, seeing the boy hand the now empty case to HK while getting a good feel for the 2 lightsabers in his hands. I wouldn't recommend activating the lightsabers just yet, young master. It's been many years since they were last used and requires some repair work to make them operational again, said HK-47, since he didn't want those weapons to activate and blow up, talking him apart in the process. Good point, HK. I'll go to the workshop area and get the needed parts to update these, said Naruto, as he felt his hands practically tingling while holding onto these items, and for some reason they felt right to have in his hands. Smart move, Naruto. HK, you will help Naruto get the needed parts, and help him with any questions he may have regarding the repairing of his lightsabers, said Revan, as he emphasized on the word his, to make it clear they were Naruto's from now on, and that they would be from this day forward until another namikaze came along many years later should history repeat itself. Yes, master, said HK-47, as he motioned Naruto to follow him to the workshop, and Kyuubi would have followed, except Revan made a small hand motion for her to stay a moment. How is he, aside from his training? Said Revan, seeing Kyuubi have a small, almost gentle smile on her face, and her eyes seemed to have a small amount of gentleness in them too. Better. He still has a lot of anger inside of him. Are you sure you want him running off all around the village this early? Said Kyuubi, as she had talked to Revan about this before, and was a little hesitant to bring her new master out so soon in the thick of things. We can't keep him here forever, and the boy will have questions that will be needed to be answered concerning his family, more importantly about his mother, said Revan, as Naruto had confided in the holocron about wanting to know about his mother, and what became of her. Revan had of course told Naruto that the only one that could answer that was the Hokage, and that he would have to ask the old man for answers regarding that. I know that much. I already got Naruto-kun lots of privileges that only the Sannin could have or possibly get away with. Though what became of his human mother even I don't know, but if she is alive, and neglected to take in Naruto, I will see to it that there is hell to pay, said Kyuubi, as her form generated an incredible amount of demonic chakra around her, and her killer intent so powerful it made the holocrons in the room have a little spasm from the intense amount of energy. Calm down. I'm still needed here, you know, said Revan, as he didn't want any of the holocrons damaged on either side, and with even one damaged would result in hindering Naruto's force training. Fine. How is he coming along with your training? Said Kyuubi, as she had given her report on Naruto, and now she wanted to know about Revan's progress. He's learning much from his time with me. Naruto's becoming a true Grey Master like my real self was back when I was still fighting war after war, said Revan, as his holocrons helped him recall various battles he had during the Mandalorian Wars, and then later in the Jedi Civil War. It will take a lot more than us to help keep him balanced. A lot more, said Kyuubi, as she knew that while she along with Revan were both a good start in the beginning, the boy needed more, and Konoha was hardly the place for it. At least with the old generation anyway. Konoha one day later. Are you sure you want to do this, Naruto-kun? Said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto now wearing the armored clothing of his ancestor in his size and was also wearing the same type of helmet too. Yes. I'm not afraid of them anymore, said Naruto, as his original fear of the villagers and the shinobi populace had always scared him when he was younger due to the past events with them. Nor will you be ever again. As long as I'm by your side, no one is going to get within spitting range unless I say they're okay. And I'm very protective of my new master, said Kyuubi, hugging him from behind, letting her assets press up against him, making Naruto blush a little since he was still new to the whole touchy-feely thing. Thanks, Kyuubi-chan, that means a lot to me. Now let's go and see what havoc we can create today, said Naruto, making Kyuubi herself blush at the chan suffix he used and was pleased he used it. They made their way out of the estate, through the shield generator, and into the streets of Konoha's buzzing populace where their very presence created wave of things to come. The populace itself was surprised by these two, as they had never been seen before while wondering who they were, and where they came from. The shinobi that did know from the meeting a few days ago, however, did know exactly who Kyuubi was despite her concealment of her tails, and the lack of fox ears she sported during the meeting with the Hokage that she interrupted. They knew also suspected that the masked figure out in front while still slightly beside her was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and they had to be extra careful in not pissing the boy off. His current attire was nothing they had ever seen before, with the armor, mask, and the dark robes that wrapped around his form like a shadow, and that if you were not careful would eat you alive. "Cat, do you know where they are going?" said an Anbu shinobi wearing a ferret mask on. "Either to the academy or the Hokage. Regardless, be on watch. This could be very bad or very good. We need to find out, so be on alert," said the female cat-masked Anbu, who turned to her Anbu team watching the duo from above on the rooftops, and saw her team nod before continuing their surveillance. As Naruto and Kyuubi walked towards their destination, they received many stares from the village populace, with the men wondering who the hot-looking woman was, and with several females wondering who the well-muscled man was behind the mask. It was one of things about the clothing Naruto wore, as it was tight-looking on the outside, but really comfortable on the inside, and the mask helped make him more mysterious. One of the things that attracts a woman to a man is their desire to know more about him, and make them want more in the process. "Quite the head-turners, aren't we, Naruto-kun?" said Kyuubi, smiling and whispering to Naruto, knowing only Naruto would hear her. "It will be more when they learn who it is that lies beyond this mask, but before they do, I need to make myself known to the younger generation, and plant the seeds betrayal into their minds," said Naruto, heading straight for the academy, knowing that only a young mind like their own can see past the hate. "Oh, how deliciously evil, Naruto-kun. I see you're using your ancestors' training and your complex demonized mind to good use," said Kyuubi, smirking at the boy that had become her master. Naruto just gave her a brief nod before heading to the academy, which he sensed made the Anbu watching him very nervous, and the newly made half-demon couldn't help the growing urge to smile at that behind his mask. Soon people will fear, respect him, and maybe find someone to love him for who he was rather than for what he was. Hokage Tower, Hokage's office. "So you've finally come out of the shadows, Naruto. The only question now is, will you be a merciful warrior? Or, will you take your rage out on everyone in the village for their stupidity and their beliefs to hate you like they have in the past?" said Sarutobi, sighing, as he watched the two through in his crystal ball head towards the academy, and prayed he wasn't going to lose any more people. "You're seeing him now, I take it," said Kakashi, as he entered through the window, since the secretary had told him the Hokage didn't want to be disturbed, and knew it was a lie, knowing full well the old man wasn't. He also knew the secretary was on Danzo's payroll for spying, something the Cyclops shinobi told the Hokage years ago to keep the bandaged old fool in the dark about certain things. "Yes, I'm concerned about what will happen at the academy. I'm reluctantly holding back the urge to have every Anbu, Junin, and Chunin in the area converge on the academy to try subduing the two," said the Sandame, as his mind was half telling him to let the boy do whatever he wanted according to the deal made by Kyuubi herself, and the other telling him to have the two restrained until Jiraiya returned to fix this. If it could be fixed. It's probably best if Naruto does as he pleases, Hokage-sama. You know as well as I do that there is a lot of anger inside of him just begging to be unleashed upon us. I don't think it's wise to provoke either, considering what one is and the other having unknown powers that could rival any of us. Including you, I might add," said Kakashi, as he looked at the boy through the ball, and saw they were now entering the academy. It was now time to see what the boy would do. Inside the academy, Naruto walked through the halls, passing students heading to class, teachers heading to class, janitors walking around, and various other personnel. Many turned their heads towards them just like the village populace outside, and when someone tried to stop him they found themselves flown into a wall or the ceiling before tasting hardwood floor. The thing that startled everyone was the fact that Naruto never touched them physically with his hands, and his actions towards the Chunin teachers got everyone's attention that he was not to be messed with. Naruto walked through the academy halls until he finally reached a room filled with students he sensed were filled with clan heirs and heiresses. The class was being taught by two Chunin, one named Amino Iruka, and the other was his comrade named Mizuki. "Hello there, can I help you with something?" said Iruka, seeing the masked figure walk into the room silently with a commanding-like stature only seen in a Hokage or high-level shinobi. "Yes, I'm here to speak to the students in your class today about something important," said Naruto through his mask while making his voice become muffled thanks to one of the components in it that he activated. "Okay, do you have confirmation from the Hokage? And what exactly did you want to talk about to the students?" said Iruka, finding the boy was making him very on edge and concerned for his students, while Mizuki breathing heavily at the sight of the two. "No, I do not have confirmation from the Hokage, nor do I need it. I do not answer to that old man and never will unless it benefits me in the end. As to what I wish to speak to your students about, it is also none of your concerns, since if you yourselves try to tell them about it, the end result would require you all to die immediately, and given the nature of the law behind what I'm about to say, I suggest you keep your mouth shut," said Naruto, seeing both Chunin inhale a deep breath, as they now understood what law the man before them was talking about, and just who was behind that mask in question. "Hey, who are you?" said a boy with a puppy dog on his head who was now slightly whimpering in fear of Naruto and Kyuubi, having smelled the scent of fox on them both. "My name will be told later. Now on to what I have to say. You see, about 8 years ago, around the time you were born, a great demon known as Kyuubi attacked the village, and nearly won had it not been for the quick thinking of the Yondaime Hokage. He gave his life to defeat the great demon lord at the cost of his own life, but he didn't kill it, as your parents may have told you, or when you heard this part of it in your history class. What they told you regarding that is nothing more than a lie," said Naruto, making the students gasp at this and whisper to each other at why people would lie to them like this. "If the demon wasn't destroyed, then where is it, and why would the adults lie to us in the first place?" said Shikamaru, who found the man's presence troublesome to such a level he couldn't sleep, and the woman beside him had a look in her eyes that put the Nara's mother to shame. "The demon lord does in fact live, despite what your parents and teachers have told you, since they don't want you to know the truth. They feel that lying to you is much better, despite the ironic fact that they most likely taught you to be honest in life like they say they are. Hypocrites, the village over, I say. Anyway, the demon lord Kyuubi no Kitsune was sealed away by the Yondaime inside a newborn child that had just been brought into this world, and the child, the Yondaime's son no less, was to be seen as a hero for holding such a burden inside of his tiny body, and expected the people of the village to do so," said Naruto, seeing the children gasp again and once more whisper on who the Namikaze boy was, and with the girls if he was willing to go on a date with them. "Namikaze? He means my guiding spirit," thought Hinata, who looked at the figure and wondered if the same person behind the mask was that person. "Did the village honor the dying wish of the Yondaime?" said a fat boy named Choji, as he munched on some chips, and found the story interesting. "No, they did not. Instead, the village tried to hurt and kill the boy multiple times, and even more so on his birthday, thinking he was the Kyuubi when in fact they were more wrong than even knew. For you see, Kyuubi no Kitsune was in fact a woman," said Naruto, making the children gasp in shock, and he saw Hinata crying from where she was on the fact that someone had tried to hurt the son of the Yondaime when it had been the Yondaime who was the one that saved them all. "Their actions are illogical, irrational, and would not be tolerated by the Hokage that is now the Sandaime," said Shino, having understood his fair share of historical politics. "Agreed. However, the Hokage made a law so no one other than the vessel himself can tell you this information, and the penalty for anyone else that knows about the Kyuubi being inside of him that tells you is death without trial. However, as you can see, not many people have died in the past 8 years because the two councils have been using their power to override such orders for people, and it acts as encouragement for them to keep trying." "What does that tell you?" said Naruto, making the children go into deep thought, and even the Nara was focusing hard on what he had just heard. "That the two councils are abusing their powers for their own ambitious gains to usurp the Yondaime's wish and the Sandaime's command law he left for people in the village to follow," said Shikamaru, his eyes focused in concentration at this point. "Correct," said Naruto, giving a clap to the Nara to signify he got it right, while his claw-like gauntlets made a metal clinking noise. "Wait, you said that the law was passed, so if anyone other than the Namikaze spoke of this, then that person would be put to death. And since you just did that, wouldn't that mean you have to be killed now?" said Yamanaka Ino, as she wondered how the man was going to get out of this one, and if not, would he have to die in front of them? She hoped not. "No, I am immune, said Naruto, seeing the confusion from the group. Immune? How? Said Uchiha Sasuke, as he wanted to know, and like any Uchiha he always got what he wanted. Simple. I am Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto, removing his helmet, revealing raging blonde hair with stakes of red, semi-chiseled face, his whisker, birthmarks, and his blue eyes filled with an intensity that surprised everyone in the room. It's him. It's really him, thought Hinata, as her eyes filled with joy, and her pale face became that of a crimson blush. It's Naruto, thought Iruka, shocked at this turn of events, wondering why he hadn't seen it before. It's the demon boy and that demon bitch Kyuubi as well, thought Mizuki, snarling at the two since he had no love for either of them. Surprise. Now if you will kindly turn your attention to this lovely woman in front of me, I would like to introduce you all to the one, and the only Kyuubi no Kitsune, said Naruto, making the students' eyes bug out of their sockets and fainted on the spot. Though Hinata fainted for other various reasons. I think you overdid it, Naruto-kun, said Kyuubi, smirking at the boy, who turned to her, and shrugged since it didn't really matter at this point. Maybe. We'll see when they all confront their parents about it and ask questions later today, said Naruto before putting his helmet back on and walked out with her to see the Hokage. Hokage's office. I can't believe he just gambled with the chance to bond with the current generation and told them about Kyuubi, said Kakashi, seeing the Hokage letting out a defeated sigh, as the plan Naruto had just done was in itself brilliant, and masterful in terms of a tactical move by the boy. It was a brilliant move, Kakashi. If the current generation of Konoha cannot give Naruto a chance, then he will leave the village, and no doubt take everything he can from his clan home. Word will get out to the feudal lords and they will no longer come here to do business with us for this village's past crimes, for what it did to its hero's son. The current generation being taught right now will hate their parents, they will unleash their own hate upon the old, and do everything in their power to make our lives miserable, said the old Hokage, slumping back in his chair further into defeat. You don't mean that, said Kakashi, but the tired look on the Sandame's face cut him off, and the old man simply nodded his head. Yes, whatever happens next could cause an insurrection so great, only Naruto can stop it if he so wishes, and Kami help us if the old generation continues to fail, said Sarutobi, wondering how he could ever make it up to Naruto if at all. Kami help them all. Naruto walked out of the academy feeling good about himself, smiling a smile that if seen would have made women blush, and possibly faint if it wasn't for the simple fact his helmet covered it up. Heading to the Hokage Tower, Naruto noticed the hate-filled glares aimed at him, and more importantly at Kyuubi, seeing how word got out immediately that she was demon that attacked nearly a decade ago. They don't seem to like us, Naruto-kun. Even more than before it seems, said Kyuubi, as she smirked at the people around them, and basically dared the people to attack while letting out some of her demonic chakra to tell them she could defend herself along with her master. It doesn't matter, Kyuubi-chan. All that matters is getting answers right now while the village's younger generation declares war on the old one. Those that are strong will rebel against their parents, as the weak fall, and succumb to their parents' hate for us. In that moment we will know just who to trust, and who to kill later on, said Naruto, sensing someone had the balls to throw a rock at them, which was stopped by Naruto through the force, and sent it flying back only to the man's groin, thus effectively taking care of the man's boldness in the years to come. The way you say that makes it sound so why? Said Kyuubi, grinning wickedly at Naruto while snaking an arm around his shoulder and moving closer to him so her s were touching his shoulder. Kyuubi-chan, is there any name I can call you outside of Kyuubi? It sounds more like a title than an actual name, and it like I should call you by an actual name, said Naruto, using this as an excuse to ignore the feeling of her assets against him. Unfortunately, it's both my name, as well as my demonic title all in one, and I've never really thought up a name to call myself. If you want to, Naruto-kun, you can give me a name, and I'll go by that, said Kyuubi, as she had actually hoped to have a name to call her own, and this right now may be her only chance for it. How about I call you Asta? Said Naruto, thinking it was simple yet nice name for the former tenant of his stomach. It's a very nice name, Naruto-kun, said the newly named Asta, as she kissed his helmet where his cheek would be, and ignored the looks of murderous intent aimed at them. Naruto blushed from the kiss on his helmet, but frowned at sensing the people around them hating them, and made a mental note to kill a few people here today before it was over. Upon entering the Hokage Tower, they were met with opposition, as the shinobi of various ranks in the building tried to stop them, but were easily thrown aside by a simple wave of Naruto's hand, and when they entered the Hokage's office they saw the man with a mask with a cyclops face looking at them with heavy-hearted eyes. "Hey old man, we need to talk, now," said Naruto, removing his helmet and glaring at the old fire shadow looking back at him with tired eyes. "I thought you might after that speech you gave at the academy to all the kids your age," said Hokage, sighing, and lit his pipe before falling back into his comfortable chair. The comfortable chair was the only thing good about the job, unfortunately. "I know my father is dead, but I don't know what happened to my mother, and I want to know if she left me or she died," said Naruto, his piercing gaze never leaving the Hokage, while Asta was looking at the Cyclops with calculating eyes while the Cyclops was being cautious of Asta. "Your mother is alive, Naruto, but, before I tell you, can you please ask Kyuubi to leave, and not tell her what I'm about to tell you?" said the Sandaime, hoping the boy before him would understand. "Asta-chan stays here whether you like it or not. Now, if you don't tell me right now what happened to my mother, I am going to unleash my pent-up fury on the Leaf Village. And I know I have the ability to do it, so don't think my threat's a bluff," said Naruto, as he was getting very anxious in using the force choke on the old man. And the only reason he hadn't was because the old man had tried to take care of him all those years he was alone. However, that currency was burning up real fast. "As I said before, Naruto, your mother is in fact alive, but she in a coma, and has yet to awaken from it," said the Sandaime, as he looked over to Kyuubi, or Asta. According to Naruto, calling her that like it was her fault. "What level? What room?" said Naruto, as he wanted to see her for himself, and try to awaken her from that coma. "I can't tell you, Naruto. It's highly classified and you are no ack," said the Sandaime, as he found himself slowly chalking, making Kakashi look at him. And then back to an angry Naruto, now with his arms stretched out in a chalking motion. "You overestimate your power over me and I am in no mood for you jurisdiction bull crap, old man. Your powers are weak, which is no surprise, as you let the councils walk all over you, so you might as well tell me now or I will choke you into unconsciousness, and then go to the hospital to find out myself," said Naruto, as the thought of his mother in the hospital all this time, and not once was he able to see her, was making his blood boil. Kakashi looked ready to stop the boy, but was stopped when Asta moved faster than he could blink, and had the Junin pinned to the wall with her 4 tails while her hand was on his throat. "Third floor. In the restricted area. Room number is 396, said the Hokage, struggling to breathe while looking at Naruto's cold eyes that were filled with anger. Anger at the old man for betraying him all these years. With the drop of his hand, Naruto let go of the force power he summoned to use against the old man, allowing the Hokage to breathe once more, and then walked out of the room with Asta right behind him with a smirk on her face. Her master was becoming strong, dominating in a sense, and was embracing the demonic blood she gave him that told him not to take crap from anybody around him. The boy had taken crap for a good chunk of his life from the very beginning, since he was born, because of her and what that Teme Uchiha Madara did in summoning her. She knew it was unfair for these humans to take out their hate on this boy, who had no say in the matter, and what was worse was the old man that was supposed to protect him was doing a piss-poor job. Keeping Naruto in the dark about why people hate him, letting those 2 councils run the show, and have the old man act like a figurehead instead of being the influential leader he was supposed to be. The time of Naruto being a punching bag was over, and the time for him to start punching back by any means necessary was now. "It's the demon. Kill him," said the voice of a villager, who had formed a rather large mob that was heading straight for them, and the shouts for making the Namikaze suffer were getting on Naruto's last nerve. "Look, Naruto-kun, a mob has formed for you to practice your powers," said Asta, as she saw the mob get closer, and waited for Naruto to use some of his newfound abilities on the stupid mammals. The question now was, would it be the dark side powers of the Force? Or would he use his demonic power to make these fools bleed themselves dry? "I think you are right, Asta-chan. Let's test out my demonic powers. Demonic fox art. Hungry plant jutsu," said Naruto after throwing the seed halfway in front of the mob and then going through the one-handed hand sign before slamming his hand into the ground, making the said ground shake in front of him. "What's going on?" said a member of the mob before the large demonic plant that Naruto brought to life came out of the ground. Its plant-like limbs wrapped themselves around the mob, and its many mouths with its many sharp pointy teeth that made up their mouths just beyond their lips looked like they were hungry for food. The meat-based kind of food. Dig into your meal, my pet, there is no need to be shy, and wait on my account to leave, said Naruto, snapping his fingers before the plant-like creature began feasting on the mob while the said mob screamed out in agony. Your skills with plants is very impressive, Naruto-kun. Most impressive actually, said Asta, as she saw the carnage that was before her, and loved how the arrogant humans were suffering for said arrogance. Thank you, Asta-chan, but we've wasted enough time here, and need to go visit my mother, said Naruto, knowing that even if she was in a coma, he could still reach her through the force, and speak to her on some level. No doubt she would have a million questions for him and not all the answers would be to her liking. Upon entering the hospital, the nurses glared at him, but his gaze in their direction, and a blast of killer intent made them change their minds in continuing. He went to the elevator and punched in the third floor since the stairs were no doubt being blocked by the various members of the hospital staff along with shinobi in the hospital. They wouldn't want him to go anywhere they didn't want him to after having word of his and Asta's appearance in the building was made known. Upon exiting the elevator, Naruto headed towards the restricted area currently filled with coma patients, and just as he suspected the Anbu were lying in wait at the main door that led towards it. The two Anbu saw him before tensing ever so slightly since they had heard how the Kyuubi was female and was with the Namikaze currently on the warpath against those that wronged him. You know who I am and how little patience I have for those that are in my way of what is mine. You have 3 options before you. 1. You can move on your own, and let me through. 2. I make you move, thus making you a resident here in this hospital, and or the morgue. 3. Well, 3 is basically the same as 2, but instead of me hurting you, it's going Asta-chan here, and I doubt you two want to try messing with her this second time around, said Naruto, smiling evilly behind his mask, sensing both masked shinobi have a considerable amount of fear in them about that. We'll move, said the Anbu to Naruto's right, and the two did just that. Good. We were never here, said Naruto, using the mind trick on the now fear-induced and thus weak-minded Anbu. You were never here, said the two Anbu at the same time, who now believed that the two were not in the hospital anymore after the two entered the restricted area, and as far as they knew never were. Naruto and Asta walked all the way to his mother's room, opening it as he sensed she was all alone in the room itself, and saw her hooked up to various machines that kept her alive. Naruto's hands clenched in anger at seeing his mother like this, as he wondered if Asta was really responsible, or if this was from foul play from someone in the village during the chaos of the fighting. Mother, said Naruto, taking off his helmet and placing on a chair near the bed before running his hand on her face after taking off his gauntlets so he didn't cut her with them. This is interesting. According to this, she's been drugged heavily with various sedatives, and considering she's supposed to be in a coma, I don't see the need for it, said Asta, as she looked at Kushina's medical charts and saw the long list of various drugs the doctors were pumping into her system. They want to keep her in a coma. How bad is the damage? Said Naruto, looking at Asta, who was looking at each name for each drug, and she let out a growl when she saw one of them she recognized was made from a plant when ground up. Bad. One of the drugs here has symptoms I recognize from a plant that causes internal damage to the body, and this one's been pumped into her more than the others. Even if we remove the sedatives, as well as wake her up from a coma, she'll be a vegetable, and will be in constant pain in the process. I'm surprised the Hokage of yours didn't know this or have a competent doctor take a look at her chart, said Asta, as she put it back, and now looked at the woman currently suffering in silence. Asta, I need you to go get the Hokage, and get him over here right now. He has a lot of answering for this and letting this happen to the one that brought me into this world, said Naruto, his eyes turning from blue to red and then back to blue again. Agreed, said Asta, as she disappeared in a flare of flame, and let Naruto focus on his mother suffering. This day cannot get any worse, thought Naruto, as he caressed his mother's face, and sensed her pain through the force. Uchiha Estate. The demon is at the hospital now? Good. Half of the clan will strike him, as the other half strike the Namikaze estate, and with the clan secrets in our possession we will be able to overthrow the Hokage, creating a new Konoha where the Uchiha clan rules over these weak fools, said Uchiha Fugaku, who while blind had lost none of his anger at the village, and at Naruto for obvious reasons. Can we really beat him and the Kyuubi herself, Fugaku-sama? Said an Uchiha that was the recently blinded man's cousin. I'm pretty confident we can. All we need to do is launch a surprise attack and overpower them both without Sharingan eyes. Once we immobilize them, we find out how to lower that chakra-like dome surrounding the Namikaze estate, and take the power the Uchiha clan deserves to have, said Fugaku, hearing cries of approval, and ordered his kin to disperse to begin the operation. This is wrong, Fugaku, and you know it is too, said Uchiha Makoto, as she had become recently worried for her husband, and him pushing Itachi too hard while at the same time neglecting Sasuke too. No, it's not. We were once a great clan, Makoto. We were equals once with the Hyuga clan, with the Senju clan, and even the Namikaze clan thanks to our Sharingan eyes. Now we are shadows of our former self, drowning in a sense of simple duty to protect the village, and not rule as their betters. The Uchiha clan is the strongest of all the clans, and yet we are shadows of what we should be since we are only recognized for our police force. It's an embarrassment to our clan that we are the village's protectors rather than their masters, said Fugaku, who looking in the direction of his wife, and has a scowl on his face that had bandages wrapped around his eyes. Listen to yourself. You sound just like Madara did when he was still alive, as he always believed he was better than everyone, and how he should be treated like a god. We are not gods at all, Fugaku, and never will be, said Makoto, wondering what was running through her husband's mind right now, since it clearly wasn't sanity. Maybe Madara had the right idea. This clan needs to remember that only the strongest of us can rule Konoha, and once Itachi reach a level that rivaled the Hokage or the Sannin, we'll be able to take out all opposition, said Fugaku, as he had hopes for his oldest son, who had shown so much progress, and was truly prodigy of the clan that was worthy of being called the next Madara. You're insane, Fugaku. This will never work, and the Hokage will stop you if you do this, much less now with the Yondaime's son out in the open, said Makoto, only to be slapped by Fugaku, who had long since been able to detect how close his wife was, and her height when he was standing next to her thanks to his shinobi training. I don't need you to tell me what I am. Soon, the two demons will be taken down, and then Konoha will belong to the Uchiha clan with all its inhabitants our slaves to cater to our every whim, said Fugaku, grinning at the idea of his plan to make the Uchiha clan great again appearing in his mind. How wrong you are, said Itachi, appearing from the shadows, having heard enough to convict his father the village over, and sent his sword into the man's skull, making Fugaku die instantly. Itachi, said Makoto, wondering why her oldest son wasn't out hunting for Naruto like the others were. I'm sorry, mother, but you know it had to happen, and if I didn't do it then someone else would have, said Itachi, having slain a large number of his unsuspecting Uchiha clan kin heading to the Namikaze estate and those within the Uchiha district guarding it from any counter-attack by the Hokage. Your eyes. They've changed, said Makoto, seeing the Sharingan eyes of her son now different from the usual three komas that inhabited his eyes. I killed my best friend Shisui, who was in league with father to take down the Hokage, and in the plot to subdue Naruto. I owe Kushina-sama everything, and I cannot allow our clan to destroy the hero of this village she brought into this world, said Itachi, before he turned to hear banging on the door with Sasuke calling out to his parents, wondering what had happened. Don't kill your brother. Sasuke had no knowledge of what your father was planning, said Makoto, looking fearfully at her son, who looked at her with a passive look on his face, and nodded, since she was right, though the situation may scar him deeply because of it. Mom, Dad, what happened? Why are so many of our family dead? Said Sasuke, finally opening the door, finding her mother looking terrified, as she stared at Itachi, while Itachi himself looked at Sasuke, and activated his Sharingan's illusionary power on his little brother. Take care of Sasuke. His sanity will be an issue that needs to be kept in check while I'm gone, said Itachi, as he threw an explosive tag at a far wall, making it explode, and ran out of the estate before going out of the village as planned with the Sandame. After that, Itachi just had to wait for his contact with Jiraiya, and find out where he went from there. Hospital. Kushina's room. Hiruzen Sarutobi was a man that had seen many things in his life, such as his first kill as a shinobi, his first battle, first war, his sons being born, and the demonic power that was the Kyuubi's own unleashing her fury on the village. When Naruto left with the female demon, the old man thought everything would be fine, and didn't expect Naruto to return until tomorrow, with Asta, as he called her, when the councils were meeting with the clan heads again. He was surprised when Asta appeared, grabbed him by the throat, told him to struggle, and vanished with her in a pillar of flame that also incidentally burned his mountain of completed paperwork. Now, moments later from that life-shortening event, The sandaime looked on at the unconscious coma patient that was Uzumaki Kushina, and the angry look that was on her son's now unmasked face. "Naruto, I," said the sandaime, only to be stopped with a hand raised and an index finger pointing up from Naruto to tell the old fire shadow to shut up. "The chart, old man. Look at the chart and then tell me if it's the same chart you've been reading for the past 8 years concerning my mother," said Naruto, using the force to make the chart levitate and then get thrown across the room into Sarutobi's hands. "These are not the charts I read before. The charts I had seen were different. I may not have that much medical knowledge like my student Tsunade, but I know enough about these drugs to know that some of them should not be given to a coma patient, and any doctor with a degree knows this," said Sarutobi, as he had always been handed the charts by the doctor he was with when he visited every so often to check up on Kushina, and now he finds the doctors were in on this too. He was such a fool. The damage to her body is very extensive. Even with Naruto's powers I gave him, as well as the force, if she were to awaken, then Kushina would never be the same again, and would be in constant pain the rest of her life, said Kyuubi, having seen the chart history of what the woman was given and knew that the boy's mother was physically damaged beyond any hope of a full recovery. "Naruto, I didn't know. I swear to you I didn't know. I will see to it a full investigation is done on who did this to her. Just give me time and I will have answers for you by the end of the week," said Sarutobi, seeing the fury in the eyes of the boy, making the similarities between Naruto and Minato to be very frightening in his opinion. "You got until tomorrow at the next council's meeting, and if I don't have my answer by that time, everyone in that room will die," said Naruto before kissing his mother's hand and put on his helmet once more. "Tomorrow? I can't work miracles, Naruto. I need more time," said Sarutobi, as he now pleaded with the boy he saw as a grandson for some form of leniency, and the quick blast of killer intent told him there was none to be had. "You're the Hokage, old man. Act like it for once and get done what needs to be done or I will," said Naruto before walking out of the room with Asta right behind him. "He's right. I have been too lax. I'm the professor, damn it. The god of shinobi is what I was called in my prime, and here I am being pushed around by some arrogant fools on the councils thinking I'll bend to their will. I may be old, but I still have the will of fire, and I'm going to prove it right now," thought Sarutobi as his eyes hardened, and he went to get Ibiki himself to make this his top priority for the day. Not far away, Hyuga Hinata was walking home deep in thought with her newly made Junin escort Yuhi Kurenai, as she thought of the boy she had a secret crush on, and how he was the one that had helped her through the troubled times with her family. Originally, her father, that was Hyuga Hiyashi, had been cold, cruel, even to a point where she wished that she was homeless without a family, and didn't have to be belittled by her own father. "Something on your mind, Hinata-san?" said Kurenai, seeing the girl in deep in thought about something and hoped the Hyuga heiress would open up. "It's just that what happened to Naruto-kun all these years isn't right, and how the village treat him makes me ashamed to call myself a citizen of Konoha too," said Hinata, as she looked at her escort, and saw the woman wince at that, since Kurenai had seen the looks kids were giving their parents that picked them up. They were questioning the wisdom of their parents, how they now knew the truth, and asked why they hurt the son of the Yondaime. It caused a panic to rise in the adults, as they asked their children who told them such lies, and the children responded saying the simple 2 words that were, "Namikaze Naruto." The parents immediately called the boy a liar, demon, and various other names, saying to not believe a word Naruto told them. The children countered them, saying they saw the demon lord and that she was standing right next to the Namikaze boy. The parents were too surprised by this to counter this, and the children further believed that Naruto got the very short end of the stick when it came to the people treating him like a hero like the Yondaime said they should. "Hinata-san, I know that Naruto-sama was mistreated badly, but you can't put the blame on all of us, and remember that there were some that helped the boy. Namely the Hokage of this village," said Kurenai, as she saw the young girl's face turn into a scowl that the fresh female Junin had seen similar from Hiyashi himself. "The Hokage did very little and you know it. You just don't want me to lose my loyalty to Konoha," said Hinata, as she struggled with the idea of such a thing within her mind, and found that if she had a choice her loyalty would be more to Naruto than to Konoha in general. "She got me there," thought Kurenai, as walked slightly behind the Hyuga heiress, and stopped with her when they both sensed several chakra spikes near the hospital, only to be snuffed out soon after in an almost single instant of time. Outside the hospital, Naruto had sensed them long before he exited the building, as the Uchiha-dominated police force appeared ready for battle, and looked at him with blazing red eyes. That was their Sharingan. Naruto looked at them from beyond his helmet, as he sensed their evil intentions towards him, and asked while torturing them with their bloodline limit. "You and your demon bitch are going to die here today, abomination," said the Uchiha captain of the squad, who drew his sword, and so did the others reading their weapons. "Such foolish humans think they can defeat you, master. I think you should test your family's blade skills right now against them," said Asta, seeing the Uchiha around her tense at that and when Naruto took out both lightsabers before igniting them. "I agreed fully with you, Asta-chan. I think I will consider this part where I kill my many enemies before me as family's initiation process to advancing to the next level of my training," said Naruto, bringing his lightsaber blades up into a X formation at the chest level of his body, while Asta took several steps back, grinning wickedly at the group of Uchiha in front of her. "Kill him," said the Uchiha captain, with him and the others charging Naruto in the hopes their numbers would overpower the Grey Master in training. They were very much mistaken. Naruto used his new demon-enhanced speed, combined with force speed, and tore into his adversaries in the instant he was upon their surprised forms. The weapons the Uchiha used were cut through instantly with their flesh not far behind, as they lost arms, legs, and on some occasions had deep burning holes in their body where Naruto stabbed them. In the end, only one single Uchiha remained alive, and even then the term alive was used loosely due to the loss of 2 of his 4 limbs, with one being an arm while the other a leg, and had several holes in his gut going out through the back of his spine. "Spare me, show mercy," said the Uchiha in his late 30s, who was in more pain than he had ever been in his entire life, and was now had his life hanging in the balance of this boy he had once called a demon. "Mercy? You want me to show mercy to you? Why? So you can try to rally the people in the village to kick me out or execute me? I know of the Uchiha's ways of mercy, as I am fully aware from reading your mind that you along with the rest of the Uchiha clan have long conspired against me since I was born, and have helped the villagers on more than one occasion in trying to kill me. But then again, perhaps I should show you some act of leniency, as a way to show that while I hate your entire clan's guts, I can still be the much better person, and show that my powers should in fact be shared with others just like the Uchiha clan," said Naruto, smiling behind his mask, while Asta looked on wondering what it was that he had planned, and the Uchiha on the ground was more than happy to agree with Namikaze's idea for leniency. "Yes, please, share with me your power, Naruto-sama, and show everyone how powerful you are," said the Uchiha, as he was seeing his chance to get close to the boy, and then stab the Namikaze in the back in the process. What the Uchiha got was a painful blast of Sith lightning from Naruto's hand that struck the now slowly dying in pain of a man begging for his life. "You wanted me to share with you my power, so here it is, fool. Power. Unlimited unstoppable power," said Naruto, his demonic side surface, as the Sith lightning turned from purple to crimson, and then back to purple, with the Sith lightning taking the life of the Uchiha while setting the corpses of the others on fire. When Naruto stopped, all the bodies were burning, and he along with Asta walked away back to the Namikaze estate, not caring about the incident that would soon be the Uchiha massacre, having taken place mere moments earlier at their clan home. He had sensed it, of course, as growing deaths in Konoha immediately skyrocketed, and they were caused from him like he wished them to be. He sensed the pain, the despair, and the agony of the clan's slayer that was Uchiha Itachi taking the life of his kin on the orders of the Hokage. "The old man finally did something right," said Asta, as she sensed what he did, and had a smile on her face, knowing that the less potential Uchiha clan members with the power of the Sharingan at their command that were in this world, the better. No doubt, with the Uchiha police force gone, the stress on the Chunin, Junin, and the Anbu will be increased several times over to compensate for crimes committed here in the village. However, what concerns me is that there are still 2 Uchihas remaining after Itachi left, said Naruto, reaching out to the force and sensing the 2 in a single room. "One boy and his mother," said Asta, having sensed the signatures of the 2 and how they were related to each other. "Yes, knowing the councils, they will spoil him silly, and make him act on his thirst for vengeance for what Itachi did." "How troublesome," said Naruto, as they walked back to the Namikaze estate, and the Namikaze himself made a mental note to speak to Revan about this development. "Naruto-kun," said Hinata not far away from him, seeing him walking not far from his recent battle. It seems someone has a crush on you, said Asta, as she saw the little girl, and the older woman beside the Hyuga heiress head towards them. Hello. Hinata was it? Said Naruto, seeing the girl blush a tinge of red at him for being able to remember his name. He remembers, thought Hinata while nodding, as her inner self was jumping up and down with happiness, and wished she could do this outwardly. In the privacy of her room, of course. It's nice to meet you again, Hinata-chan. I hope my talks with you helped improve things with your family, said Naruto through his helmet, seeing the girl's facial color change and the touching of her index fingers together. You have talked to the Hyuga heiress before? Said Kurenai, wondering when Hiyashi let the boy into his house. Naruto-sama has talked to the girl in a manner of sorts that doesn't concern you, Junin, said Asta, looking at Kurenai with eyes that told her not to probe into the subject. Now Asta-chan, there is no need to be so silent in this manner, and I am not afraid of saying that I have spoken to Hinata-chan before, said Naruto, seeing the girl's shade of red get slightly darker at the chan suffix he used on her. What happened back there? Said Kurenai, seeing the bloody mess left by Naruto and Asta, though she suspected it was mostly Naruto that did it. Minor problems concerning the Uchiha clan, but that's taken care of, and I must return home for mediations to clear my head. I hope to see you again another day, Hinata-chan, said Naruto, as he gave the Hyuga girl a small bow, and walked off with Asta, and had he looked back would have saw Hinata faint at his words. You are a regular heartbreaker, Naruto-kun, said Asta, as they were now out of hearing range from the Junin, and didn't want her to report the choice of suffix she used. As were all Namikaze males of my clan, Asta-chan. Now let's go home and get some much-needed rest before report to the Hokage tomorrow for answers to my mother's dying condition, said Naruto, seeing the female demon beside him nod, and Asta knew that Naruto would ask Revan for a way to save his mother through the Force. Interrogation center sometime later. The Sandame was pissed, he was irate, and was near insanity at the information Ibiki had gotten for him about the doctor in charge of Kushina's condition. Apparently, the good doctor had gone on the orders from the councils to make sure Kushina never awakened from her condition, and if she ever did, they were to make sure her body was crippled to a point that she couldn't get out of the bed she was lying in. Who else was involved in this? Said Sarutobi to Ibiki, as the tall, intimidating man now looked at his notes of the people involved in this betrayal, and wondered what the old man was going to do. Over half the hospital staff knew about it, as they helped participate in keeping it in the dark by switching charts before you arrived to see her, and apparently they think that since Konoha needs medical personnel you wouldn't get rid of them, said Ibiki, seeing the old man's face turn into furious one the interrogator had not seen since the war. Take every loyal Junin and Anbu with you to the hospital. I want them all rounded up and locked away. I will decide their fate tomorrow, and I will make an example of them like I should have in the beginning, said the Hokage, as Naruto's words from before were now echoing deep in the back of his skull, and telling him to get off his old ass to make things right. The councils won't like this. With the Uchiha clan recently decimated down to 3 living members, with one now a missing nin, they will want to take more power away from you, and claim it's for the good of Konoha, said Ibiki, having seen this happen before and didn't like how things went when it came to the 2 councils pushing the old Hokage around. I will deal with them tomorrow, as I have scheduled a meeting, and basically demanded they attend no matter what, said Sarutobi, as he was going to give Naruto everything he wanted, and make sure nothing stood in the child's way. Namikaze estate at the moment. So the Uchiha clan attacked you, and what you didn't kill, Uchiha Itachi did for you, and now has left a vacuum of chaos in the wake of it all, said Revan, having heard the report from Naruto, who had told him about his mother, and how she was suffering in the hospital. Yes, my master. I need your teachings in the ways of the healing arts of the Jedi. I need to save my mother from the hell she is in, said Naruto, as he kneeled before the image of Revan, and hoped the image of his ancestor would help him in his time of need. From what you described, your mother's body is too far gone to heal, and if she were to recover from the coma would be in constant pain, and to have her awake only to feel that is an experience worse than death, said Revan, seeing the boy's face now turning into that of sadness and anger. I cannot abandon my mother when she needs me now more than ever. Had she not been placed in this condition by those doctors, I know she would have loved me like any true mother loves their son, and I will not let the village win, said Naruto, his fists tightening in the process, and wished he could do something more for his mother, but couldn't at the moment, and wished things were not as they currently were. Go back to the hospital tomorrow. Use the Force to communicate with her while she is in the coma and see if she will accept you. Regardless of what happens, you may have to be the one that ends her life, and make the pain she is in stop, said Revan, seeing the boy place his head on the ground, wishing there was a way to bring his mother back from the brink and save her from the pain. As you wish, master. At least, I will be the one to end her life if I must, and not some shinobi or doctor on the orders from those arrogant bigots on the two councils, said Naruto, knowing if his mother was going to die, he could do it on his terms, and not anyone else's. Rest now, my apprentice. You have had a long and tiring day, said Revan, seeing the boy nod before rising to his feet and leave the room to rest. He needs to get out of the village, said Asta, as she had been watching everything her young master was feeling right now, and felt the strain of this new information crushing him inside. I agree, but I still have much to teach him that requires him to stay here, and if my apprentice leaves now he'll be hunted by the bigots putting a bounty on him, said Revan, knowing that this arrogance in the village was higher than what was anticipated. Let me take him to travel the elemental countries. Let him learn outside of the village and return when he is older to continue his training with you, said Asta, as she knew that sooner or later, Naruto was going to lose it, and when he did everyone was open game. I suppose we could do that. I had HK do a little mission outside of the estate, and he has learned that Jiraiya of the Sannin is coming back to the village. Apparently, he is my apprentice's godfather, and was supposed to take care of Naruto shortly after his birth, said Revan with some sense of anger, as HK-47 had used a stealth field generator to cloak his rusty-colored presence, and broke into the Hokage's office to find any if not all information that was related to the young Namikaze heir. I know of him. He's the teacher of the Yondaime and is a renowned seal master, only surpassed by his late pupil. He has much to answer for as well, said Asta, as her eyes narrowed, and her anger towards the Toad Sannin became clear with the swirl of demonic chakra surrounding her body. I'll leave you to deal with him then. If he has betrayed Naruto for the same reasons as the villagers, then I have no problems with you removing him from this world, and any threat he may present to my apprentice, said Revan, as he was not about to have this Sannin destroy, or possibly cripple his apprentice because he was deemed a threat. No problem, said Asta, as she left the room to get some sleep too, and planned for the moment the Sannin would return so she could tear into him a new asshole. By removing the thing between his legs in the process. Hokage Tower the next day. Itachi destroyed the entire clan, said Homura, as he was shocked by this, and looked at Sarutobi like he was nuts. No, Uchiha Mikoto and Uchiha Sasuke were the only survivors if you don't count Itachi among them. In addition, it seems Naruto was attacked by the other portion of the Uchiha clan, and he killed them all in the process, said Sarutobi, as he saw Asta looking at him with a smirk on her face, and it increased when the councils went into a rage while the clan heads didn't mind in the slightest, since the Uchiha had always been bossy to a point where they acted like the criminals they tried to bring in. The beast must die for this. If he won't, then she will in his place, and in front of the general public, said Kaharu, as she now pointed to Asta, who looked back and snarled at the old hag of a woman. The meeting had started off badly, as none of the two councils wished to embrace Asta into the group, but had little choice in the matter, and from the looks in the old Hokage's eyes they were not going to be able to bully him around anymore. Asta herself had sat down next to Inuzuka Sume, who found that while Asta was indeed the Kyuubi, she was very good company to have around, and found a kindred spirit of sorts with the woman. It had to be an animal thing. As for the others, the Nara clan head thought it was troublesome to add another member to their group, earning him some fine choice words from Asta about speaking to the man's wife. The Yamanaka clan head thought it could be interesting to see what happened, and his good friend that was the Akamichi clan head was in full agreement with him. Shibi, who was the Aburame clan head, saw the logical points behind Asta's place in being the temporary clan head for the Namikaze clan until Naruto could take it. And Hyuga Hiyashi had decided to give her the benefit of the doubt if Naruto was able to make sure the Demon Lord would do anything rash. Besides, Hiyashi noticed that when Hinata came home from the academy, she was almost gliding to her room, and wondered what it was that made his daughter so happy. He had come to the conclusion that it involved the Namikaze boy and that he had somehow been helping Hinata during his teaching, belittling of her when she failed to originally beat her younger sister Hanabi. He still didn't know how, and from what Hiyashi understood from Hinata's escort Yuhi Kurenai, neither did she, since Naruto never said how. Hiyashi had come to the conclusion that Naruto could help his oldest daughter get through this crisis and give her the strength needed to not be branded by the cage-bird seal. If we're going to be talking about public executions now, I think Naruto-sama has quite a case in having you all killed for what you have done to his mother, and I think he's more within his right to bring this to the fire daimyo's attention, said Asta, hearing the gasps from the people around her while Sarutobi nodded his head in agreement. What happened to Kushina? Said Sume, as she had been the girl's friend since they were both pups, and had formed a bond together like they were both sisters. She's in a hospital restricted area zone, where I was under the impression she was in a coma from that battle with Asta here after giving birth to Naruto, but upon the two of them making an unscheduled visit, they learned that Uzumaki Kushina is in the coma by means of human actions, and they came from this room, said Sarutobi, as she turned to the two councils beginning to sweat while the more strong-willed members held their gazes to be calm. But the old Hokage saw their quick one-second glances towards the door. What proof do you have of this outrageous claim, Sarutobi? Surely you do not believe this demon bitch, her human pet, that is this so-called son of Yondaime, and say that we had a hand in the woman's misfortune. It was because of the beast sitting in this very room that Kushina is suffering, and I demand that the beast pay for it now, said a obese council member from the civilian council side, as he was now about to be insulted by this demon, and the old Hokage they had been pushing around for so long. They were promised power, control over Konoha itself, and with various obstacles gone if not suppressed they had it. They were not about to lose it because the old man gained a spine or the demon brat sending the actual demon to change things in their political arena. I saw Kushina's medical chart myself, and I had the chief doctor interrogated by Ibiki giving me a list of names of over half the hospital personnel. They are to be sentenced in this meeting when the time comes for that, which I move as their immediate execution, and done to remind the people of Konoha that it is I that is in charge, not you, said the old Hokage, seeing the two councils becoming furious with him, and began shouting that it was unfair. They were silenced when a scream from the secretary outside the room hit their ears. The Anbu guarding the room outside were sent into the doors, making them go into the room itself, and in walked a killer intent-filled Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. In each of his hands was a lightsaber with one blade white like the purity of snow, the other black like it was from the dark shadow form of the Shinigami himself, and the chakra radiating off of him was immense. Naruto had just come from visiting his mother. Flashback 2 hours ago, hospital Kushina's room. Naruto found the noticeable emptiness of the hospital refreshing, since he didn't have to deal with the bigots here like he did outside among the village populace. Now here he was standing beside his mother's bed, holding her head with his gauntlet-free hand, and smiling down at her with his helmet off. Focusing on the Force, Naruto entered her mind, and prayed she would accept him for who he was along with what he had become. Kushina's mindscape. Her mind wasn't in bad shape, as Naruto had originally feared it would be, and walked through the forest along the dirt trail that was before him. After walking for what seemed like hours, Naruto arrived at a small hut, and walked towards it only to see the sight of the hut being mauled at by demonic beasts. Igniting his lightsabers that were a part of him, Naruto attacked the surprised creates, killing them all, and then burning their remains with a fire jutsu. Walking up to the door, he knocked 3 times, and waited for his mother to answer him if she was in there at all. "Go away. Leave me alone," said the weak female voice, as she seemed to be struggling to move if just a little, and Naruto could hear her whimpers of pain. "Let me in, mother. Let your son in," said Naruto, knowing that his voice would give her the strength to get out of bed. "Son?" said Kushina, as she seemed to struggle with the sheets of her bed beyond the door that her son awaited in seeing her. "If you won't open the door, mother, at least give me permission to open the door so I can enter, and let you see me for the first time in 8 years, said Naruto, still waiting for her to respond to his request. "How do I know this isn't a trick?" said Kushina, as she had no intention of being tricked, and having these creatures in her mind destroy her. "You don't, you can't, I have nothing with me to give you to prove that I am who I claim I am. However, I will state on the Namikaze and the Uzumaki clan names that I am your son. Please give me permission to open this door," said Naruto, as the feeling of losing his mother was now growing inside his own mind, his own heart, and he couldn't make the feeling stop. "Come in, let me see my baby," said Kushina, her voice filled with hope that he was in fact her child she brought into this world. Naruto opened the door slowly, not wishing to intimidate his mother, and walked towards her just as slowly before taking off his helmet to reveal to her all that he was. When he looked at her, Naruto saw his mother on a bed covered in white bed sheets, and saw her looking at him with joy at seeing her handsome baby boy in front of her. Naruto kneeled in front of the bed to become eye level with his mother and brought her hand to his face to let her know it was him. "I've missed you, mother," said Naruto, his eyes now releasing tears, loving how she was looking at him with love and devotion to him. "And are you my special baby boy? Tell me, how has the village treated you? Are you seen as a hero in my absence? What of Jiraiya of the Sannin, your father's sensei? Has your perverted godfather been taking care of you?" said Kushina, as she had so much to ask her son, and wanted to know all there was to know about her son. "Mom, there's something you should know about my life since you were taken from me. Something that you're not going to like," said Naruto, as he began to explain to her his life in the village, how he was not raised by Jiraiya at all, and how the councils had been pushing the old Sandaime around to get what they want. "Oh, my poor baby. You have suffered so much. This is even worse than if you were an Iwa and they knew you were his son," said Kushina, holding onto her boy and crying with him as all the pain they went through together left their being. Kushina didn't care he had become a half-demon, as Naruto was still her son, and that she loved him no matter what. She couldn't even hate Asta, as she had been a pawn at the hands of someone else, and deserved to be given a second chance in life. "I want to heal you, mother. You were injected with various drugs to keep you in a coma and destroy your body from the inside should you come out of it. I have learned much of my time with my ancestor and learning the ways of the Force. It's what allowed me to enter your mind and speak to you now, but I don't have the power to heal you, or bring you back out of this coma if I did. The only option I have left is to," said Naruto, not wishing to speak the last two words of his sentence, as they were too painful to speak, and didn't wish to speak, period. "Kill me? Is that what needs to be done?" said Kushina, as she had known for a long time she was in her mind, and this was her mindscape since she had been here before when was using mediation as a part of training. "Yes, if I were to awaken you from your coma, you would feel your body aching, as my power to revive your mind to the land of the living would cause the sedatives in your body to be purged as well, and you would be in more pain than ever before. However, you staying in here, away from me, is just as cruel, and either way hurts too much to consider doing," said Naruto, having nodded to his mother's question about killing her, and he felt her kiss his forehead soon after. "Do it, Naruto. Kill me," said Kushina, as she looked at her shocked son, who shook his head no, as he didn't want to kill his mother, and lose what he had just gained after 8 years of not having it. "No, I couldn't. Please don't ask me to that to you," said Naruto, as he didn't want to do it, as it was wrong, and yet it was the merciful thing to do. "But you must do it. You said it yourself that the only way for me to be truly free is to die, and I want to be free, Naruto-kun. I know you don't want me to go, but sometimes you have to give up things you want most, and I am one of those things. I know you just got me back in your life, but know that I will always love you, and that I will see you again when it is time for you yourself to die. Know that all this time you've spent talking with me here has been worth the years of pain we both went through, as you know that I love you, and I know you have survived the cruelty of others, making you stronger than any of them hoped to be. Your father was too naive to believe the people of Konoha would see you as a hero, and the fact you weren't is further proof he was wrong. It's up to you now to set things right, Naruto. To fix the mess your father made with seeing Asta inside of you and not taking into account of people hate for things they don't understand," said Kushina, as she held onto her son a little tighter, and kissed his hair-covered head. "If I do this, if I kill you like you ask, then I will make it quick, and as painless as humanly possible," said Naruto, his voice nearly a whisper, and more tears fell down his face. "I know you would, Naruto. While I sense hate in you for those that wrong you, I sense the love for life around you. I know you'll make me proud, and I couldn't have asked for a better son than the one before me," said Kushina, as she buried her face in his hair, and feeling the memories of when she held her baka husband like this when they were down about something. "I'm sorry, mother, for what I'm about to do, and know that I will never stop loving you," said Naruto, as his form now began to dissolve from her mind, and she continued to hold onto him despite that. "I know, son. I love you too," said Kushina before he was gone, with only the feel of him left as an imprint in her mind. Within moments, the world around her began to fade away in the darkness, and Kushina smiled knowing her son was making sure she felt no pain when this happened. Go get them, son. Raise hell for the both of us, thought Kushina, as the darkness took her, and her soul left her body. End flashback. Naruto had cried after he did what he did, as medical personnel tried to get into the room only to be stopped by Naruto barricading the room, and proceeded to end his mother's life with the force by slowly making her heartbeat beat less with each passing second. It had been like he had ripped out his own arm or a part of his soul that would never be the same ever again. The sorrow Naruto felt soon became anger, his anger soon became rage, and in his mind the rage called for the blood of those that did this to his mother. It wanted the ones that made his life miserable, which was why he had walked from the hospital to the room in the Hokage Tower, and knocking anyone in his path out of his way. One such example was the secretary, who told him to leave, but not before calling him a beast, demon pet, and other meant to hurt nicknames. Naruto took out one of his lightsabers before a quick stabbing of her gut made the bitch fall over. The Anbu guards in front of him were sent flying thanks to a heavy force push that sent them flying through the door, and allow him to enter the room filled with shocked people now staring at him with different expressions on their face. "And what are you doing here, abomination?" said Danzo, snapping his fingers loudly, and a large group of rude Anbu instantly appeared ready to fight, while the clan heads of the group moving away at the command of Asta. With a wave of his hand, Naruto put the doors back on place, locked down the windows in the room, and then barricaded the door before taking off his helmet. He let it drop to the floor, revealing the look of hatred in his eyes for them, making everyone gasp at the sight of his face. His eyes were burning crimson with slits, with a hint of yellow in the center around them, and his face looked slightly sick looking, with his Yuko form flaring to life around his targets. "What am I doing here, you ask? To answer your question, I am here to kill you all, for your own part that you played in hurting my mother Uzumaki Kushina, and making my life miserable since I had Asta sealed inside of me," said Naruto, as he ignited his two lightsabers, and reveled in the fear that large group before him was creating. "How did you get those blades? Only the second Hokage had such a weapon," said an angry Homura, though inside he was frightened by this being before him and wondered if Danzo's rude Anbu were as strong as the man boasted they were. "What he had was the perverted version of my weapons. Now shut up and die," said Naruto before he launched himself at the group before him, swinging with a berserk-like fury that no one could stop. "Well, at least Naruto's making my life somewhat easier in a sense, but I still have to do the damned paperwork anyway, and what's more, it's double after Asta burned my other half from yesterday," thought Sarutobi, as he had been pushed aside from Naruto, and knew that the boy did not hate him like the others. There was still good in Namikaze Naruto, it just needed someone to bring it back out of him, and show him not everyone hated him. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.